Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto becomes Hokage after chunin exams. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Prof.Wayne and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. The rain felt like shurikens as it pelted the palace that housed the fire daimyo, as the guards surrounding the area stood unmoving, stone-faced, only willing to move at the slightest sense of danger. Inside of the building sat the fire daimyo himself at the base of a long table, his council sitting on the left, while the right contained delegates from the hidden village in the leaves known as Konoha. Visible unrest could be seen on their faces. No one said anything, as the daimyo had instructed that the first person to speak would be someone he personally called to attend the meeting. But the silence was deafening. If one listened carefully, they could hear the nervousness from the Konoha's breaths. They were, after all, attending a meeting they had hoped to only attend as a celebration, not as an emergency meeting, but it couldn't be helped. Hiruzen Tsurutobi, Konoha's third Hokage, had been killed in battle by his former apprentice and a member of the legendary Sannin, Orochimaru. Unlike when the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, had perished, there was no previous living Hokage who could take back over. So this meeting had to happen. The fifth Hokage of Konoha had to be decided and fast. The more time they wasted, the weaker they looked to the outside world. It didn't help that they were straining their resources having to rebuild the village from Orochimaru's attack. As the silence grew louder and louder, it was finally shattered as a knock was heard on the door, and after one of the servants opened it, the legendary Sannin Jiraiya walked in with a darkened view, making the delegates look at him in confusion. Once the door was shut and the Anbu made sure that they still weren't being spied upon, Jiraiya spoke. "I've arrived as you have asked, Daimyo-sama." Jiraiya stood straight and bowed, a rare sight to many, but his actions nailed home just how serious the current situation was. Everyone had to be attentive and had to make sure their minds were entirely focused, for their decision would impact Konoha for years to come. "Ah, Jiraiya. I'm glad you came, you are critical in the discussion we are about to have." Those words from the daimyo made the delegates a bit tense, but also a bit relaxed as well. While it would be unorthodox, nobody would oppose the daimyo as he chose Jiraiya as the next Hokage, except for maybe one man. Jiraiya nodded as he walked forward as one of the servants led him to the other end of the table, directly facing the daimyo, which made him feel a bit on edge. After sitting down and getting accustomed to his strange sitting position, the daimyo continued. "Now, this meeting has been called because my dear friend Tsurutobi has breathed his last breath and has departed for the next life. Because of this, Konoha is without a Hokage, something that immediately puts our great country at risk." Everyone in the room nodded as the air began to apply pressure to them once again. The relief that Jiraiya had seemingly brought had already vanished as the gravity of the situation re-emerged from the shadows. "As such, though it has only been a few days, I believe it is wise to go ahead and name the next Hokage of the village." The daimyo readjusted himself as he closed his fan and pointed it at Jiraiya. As everyone's eyes followed it, more faces of relief began to appear as they did. "Jiraiya, I would like you to be the next Hokage of Konoha." The smiles of the delegates were immediately visible, showing that almost all of them approved of the pick. While it was true that Jiraiya was perverted and they were a bit worried what laws he might impose because of that, there was no denying his strength and he would, at the very least, be a fair ruler. However, not everyone agreed with the pick. "Daimyo-sama, I object to this." The man to speak was Danzo Shimura, a power-hungry man who was known to many as a shady individual. Though his actions had never been proven, many knew of the tales that had followed him throughout the years and his brutal practices he used on people. Danzo, is there a reason for your objection?" "It's rather simple. Jiraiya has not been in the village for years now, instead traveling the world to write his fantasy books. While no one in the village can match his strength, I don't feel he would have the commitment for the job and may leave one day out of boredom." The other delegates scowled at Danzo. They knew what his plan was. But they couldn't say anything about it. Everyone was allowed to object, and it was generally unacceptable to refute an objection, especially since it was partially correct about Jiraiya. The daimyo opened his fan back up as he began using it on himself again, as he cast a side glance at Danzo. "I understand your concerns, Danzo, but Jiraiya has always been a favorite of mine. I believe he would do a fantastic job." Danzo gripped his sleeves but didn't show any emotion on his face. He couldn't argue back against the daimyo, lest he want several Anbu agents cutting him down. So he stayed quiet and waited for the conversation to develop. After no one else spoke up, the daimyo folded his fan back up and pointed it back at Jiraiya. "So Jiraiya, do you accept the position of Hokage of Konoha?" There was silence for a moment as the delegates began to breathe sighs of relief and were already preparing for the trip back when Jiraiya once again bowed. "Daimyo-sama, while the proposal greatly honors me, I have to refuse." When he had spoken, all the delegates froze and looked at him in shock. They couldn't believe it. They were confident that Jiraiya would accept the position, especially since some of the older ones who had known him for years knew that was his original plan when he was young before he set off on his adventure. Despite the shock from the delegates, the daimyo quietly opened his fan back up and began fanning his face as he kept his content look. Well, I was expecting that type of answer, unfortunately, so it came as no big surprise. But it does allow me to tell you the true reason you were called here. Jiraiya looked up from his bow before straightening himself as the other delegates all looked at the daimyo, confusion in their eyes. Since I knew you wouldn't accept the position, I called you here for a different reason. The daimyo snapped his fingers as one of his servants brought him a file as he looked down at it. After discussing with my advisors and looking over the battle report for myself, I have decided on 2 candidates for the job and wanted to hear your opinion on them. You know both of them after all. One is currently residing in the village, while the other went off on their own journey just like you did. Everyone in the room immediately knew who the daimyo was talking about when he mentioned the one who went off on a journey like Jiraiya. However, they didn't know who he was talking about still residing in the village. However, some of the delegates did begin to look nervously at each other as Danzo began to smirk. It had to be him, they all thought. He did, after all, control a part of the Anbu, even if it was secret to the public. Sensing what threat could arise should the daimyo choose the one from the village, one of the delegates, the Jonin commander Shikaku Nara, rose up as he spoke. Daimyo-sama, I wish to nominate Kakashi Haddock for the position of Hokage. The other delegates looked at him in surprise, but all of them except for Danzo just nodded and seemed pleased with his sudden surge of inspiration. While Kakashi had his question marks, it was a no contest between him and Danzo. The daimyo continued waving his fan as he raised his free hand to his chin. I've heard good things about him. He's the copy ninja who helped take out the Mist Swordsman's abuser. Indeed his skills are impressive, however I have reservations about his mental state as I've already had an unpleasant childhood and he still carries some of that hatred and sorrow with him. Until he can let go of the past, I'm afraid I cannot consider his nomination. Shikaku bit his lip in frustration as the grin on Danzo's face reappeared, and once he saw that, Shikaku couldn't contain himself. Then I ask that you reconsider your decision on Danzo. The other delegates didn't flinch, but all of them could read like a book when the words left his mouth. They were all thinking the same thing, but none of them spoke, out of fear that Danzo might retaliate once he assumed office. However, the daimyo just raised an eyebrow as he kept fanning himself. I don't have anything to decide on when it comes to Danzo. Huh? You mean? He's not the one from the village you have your eyes on? The daimyo simply swung his head, causing relief to wash over the delegates, while Danzo again clenched his hands, but didn't retaliate. He would continue to let the situation play out, and while he may not be chosen, he could easily get close to the 5th and easily become his or her successor when they mysteriously pass away. Then who is? Before that, Jiraiya, I want to hear what you think about my first choice. The daimyo closed his fan once again as one of the servants laid a picture down on the table that everyone recognized as the daimyo pointed towards it, another member of the legendary Sannin, Tsunade. She is the granddaughter of the first Hokage, so I believe she has the heritage for the job. Her skills as a ninja in both the battlefield and the medical field are unmatched, and though easy to anger, she has a kind heart. Do you believe she should be the 5th, Jiraiya? Jiraiya looked down at the picture as a nostalgic smile came upon his face. How long had it been since he last saw Tsunade, yet alone as young as she was in the picture? Everything the daimyo had said was true, nothing was wrong. But Jiraiya's smile vanished as he crossed his arms and closed his eyes. My only worry is that she wouldn't want the job. I don't know if she would be willing to accept all the responsibility that came with it, especially after all she has been through. I see, somehow I was expecting that answer as well. The daimyo spoke as the servant picked the picture up off the table as an unnerving silence returned. Well, I wish to give you the other candidate I have thought of, however, I want to reveal something. Everyone in the room gave the daimyo a confused look as he reopened his fan before he began speaking. Konoha is the most important village of our country as it houses our strongest military and economic impacts. Because of this, I don't wish to have a new leader installed every decade or so, as every time a new one is installed, it creates a time of weakness, especially during an emergency meeting such as this. While I would have preferred Jiraiya or Tsunade, the truth is that with them, we may be having another one of these meetings in just a few years due to their age, something I do not want. The delegates nodded, understanding where the daimyo was coming from. After all, a big reason that Minato was chosen was that it was thought he would rule for decades, yet. So my choice that currently resides in the village is someone young, very young, in fact, younger than Minato was when he was chosen. Everyone raised an eyebrow and looked at each other. Was there someone that young and powerful in the village? If there were, they would still need to train to reach that power. If you're wondering how young, well, they were competing in the chunin exams just a few days ago. When the daimyo said that, everyone in the room mentally gasped and gave him looks of confusion. Someone that young, while it was true they would rule for decades, could they give someone that young that much power? After all, the Hokage was the absolute ruler of the village and could do whatever they pleased. It wasn't a democracy, it was an absolute dictatorship, and giving someone that much power at a young age. It was so risky that it made some of the ones present visibly nervous. However, Danzo seemed content with the idea, which scared some of the delegates. He seemed content because someone that young would easily be swayed, and with as high of a position he held, Danzo could quickly gain the power he wanted, even if he didn't become Hokage. So to him, he was content with that choice. However, another question arose, just who was he referring to? They wanted to narrow it down to the winners, but since the exams went unfinished, that gave them a lackluster bubble to choose from. If they included everyone, then the obvious ones that jumped out were Sasuke Uchiha for his incredible power, Neji Hyuga for his family ties, and Shikamaru Nara for his intellect. Yet all three pose problems. Sasuke was powerful, but he was fueled by hatred and revenge for his brother, who had massacred their entire clan, so could he be trusted with that much power? Neji had shown incredible chakra control, yet he was brash and often overlooked foes, which led to his defeat against Naruto Uzumaki. Finally was Shikamaru, who had a great intellect that could be matched by almost no one, yet he was incredibly lazy and often paid little attention to conversations. Out of all of them, Shikamaru seemed like the best choice since his dad was the Jonin commander. Also, despite his laziness, he knew what he was doing most of the time, so he would at least be knowledgeable with missions and the such. He was the least risky choice out of them all. So Jiraiya, would this choice be better than Tsunade? Jiraiya gave a confused look, how should he know? He didn't even know who they were after all. I'm Yosama, I'm afraid I can't answer that if I don't know who you are referring to. Oh? But since it concerns you, it should be rather easy to figure out. After all, the young one I'm talking about is the only son of Minato Namikaze. As soon as the words left his mouth, both Jiraiya and Shikaku went wide-eyed and stared at the daimyo as sweat came down their face. They were the only ones in the room who knew about Minato's son, so they immediately knew who he was talking about. Naruto Uzumaki, the Jinchuriki of Konoha. Jiraiya tried to speak, yet no words left his mouth, how could they? To be asked on the spot if your godson could become the most powerful man in your village, what could he reasonably say? Also Jiraiya, I'm not choosing him because of his bloodline. I know you have been training him ever since he was young in secret and that he held back in his chunin exam. After all, it was thanks to your training that he was able to help save Konoha during the attack. That was true. Ever since Naruto was a baby, Jiraiya had secretly watched out for him, and once he was old enough, he began secretly training him to become a ninja, making him more powerful than anyone other genin. In fact, his power could be compared to a low-ranking jonin. He was the perfect one to lead the future of Konoha, but… I'm Yosama. Shikaku stood up and slammed his hands on the table as sweat rolled down his face. I know how powerful he is, but you know how the village treats him. If he were to become Hokage suddenly, we would have full-on riots in the streets, or worse. They only treat him like that because of Saratobi's decision not to reveal the truth to anyone. I feel that if the truth was revealed and he continued to prove himself, then everyone would eventually accept him. Of course, him becoming a good leader would speed up the process. One of the delegates, a woman from the retired ninja council named Shinya, raised her hand and spoke. Who exactly is Namikaze-sama's son? I will only reveal that if Jiraiya deems him ready, if not then I advise you to begin searching for Tsunade. Jiraiya gritted his teeth as he looked at the table he was sitting at. Could he do it? Could he in good faith say Naruto was ready? No, he couldn't. At the same time, was anybody ready? Just a week ago, Saratobi was alive and the village was celebrating the chunin exams now. Now they had no leader and the village was in ruin as many ninjas were still missing or presumed dead. So was anybody ready? The only answer to that was hell no, nobody was. He knew this, and Jiraiya had to accept this. It wouldn't be a popular decision by a long shot, but Naruto might be the Hokage they need, but not the one they deserve or want. Jiraiya took a deep breath as he stood up from his chair and looked directly at the daimyo as he gave a smile. I fully support his nomination as Hokage. Jiraiya. Shikaku looked at him with worry, but as soon as he saw the resolve in his eyes, he felt a sense relief. No, perhaps it was gratitude. Whatever it was, it made him feel at ease, and after a moment he stood back up as well. I, as being the only other one here to know of Namikaze-sama's son, also fully support his nomination as Hokage of Konoha. The daimyo looked between the two of them before he smiled and shut his fan as he stood up and pointed the fan upwards. Then it settled with this, I appoint Naruto Uzumaki as the 5th Hokage of Konoha. With all that said, I hope you all enjoy. As the sun began to rise, shining the village that slept underneath it, a sense of nervousness and calm could be felt throughout the village. 3 days ago, the delegates from the village had been summoned to the capital of the country to decide on the fifth Hokage, but despite the delegates returning the previous night, there was no word of who was chosen. Many villagers had seen that some of the delegates had worried expressions and looks of disbelief, which arose fear in some that a new Hokage couldn't have been agreed upon. However, that wasn't the truth, that was far from the truth. The worries and fear that were expressed on the delegates weren't because a new Hokage wasn't chosen, it was because, for many of them, the person who had been selected was despised by almost everyone due to the lies that had been spread throughout the village over the years. However, for the ones who despised the pick, they had a small glimmer of hope left. Despite being chosen, the jonin of the village still had to convene and vote to approve or disapprove the pick. Before the delegates had left, 10 jonin had been picked to vote on the matter, and as soon as the delegation had returned, the 10 jonin convened in the Hokage's manor as the jonin commander began the vote. Once all the jonin had assembled and the Anbu had secured their location, the meeting began as Shikaku sat down at the end of the table that had been prepared as he took out the nomination letter that Daimyo had given him as he began to speak. I know that before the delegation had departed, many of us assumed that one of the legendary Sannin would have been chosen. I'm here to announce that we were partially correct in that assumption, as Jiraiya-sama was chosen to be the fifth however. Shikaku looked over the jonin who all seemed to know what he was about to say as told by their looks of doubts. He refused the position. Moreover, Tsunade-sama wasn't chosen either. Everyone in the room narrowed their eyes and nodded, not letting their surprise slip through as Shikaku continued, the person who was chosen is currently residing in the village, and it's someone we all know very well. The jonin glanced at each other but still didn't say anything, but thoughts of who it could be did start to enter their minds. Many were already assuming that it was one of the shinobi at the table, which at the very least made the vote a foregone conclusion, if that was the case. One of us here knows this person more personally than the rest of us. Kakashi. Everyone's eyes looked to the other end of the table where Kakashi was sitting, who simply raised an eyebrow at the sudden call out. I ask that you vote on this nomination, not because of personal feelings, but because of whether you believe in the nominee or not. Understand? Kakashi kept his confused gaze as he leaned onto the table and responded. I hope you're not saying I've been chosen. No, but someone from Squad 7 has been. When the words left his mouth, the air suddenly became thin as all the jonin looked at each other in confusion and genuine surprise. Even Kakashi was shocked by the news as he narrowed his gaze. Does this mean that Uchiha Kid has been chosen? The one to speak was the leader of Team 10, Asuma Sarutobi, the son of the recently departed third Hokage. Because while it's true he's powerful, we have to realize that his brother drives him, not a good quality of a leader. Everyone nodded, that was true, Sasuke was driven by revenge for his brother, and giving him the power of the Hokage could mean all of the country's resources would go to killing Itachi and nothing else. Not to mention, but he's currently resting in the hospital after losing his battle to that sand ninja known as Gaara, right? The next jonin to speak was Choza Akimichi, the father of Choji and a famous jonin due to his years of service. Indeed, the reports state that after being severely injured, his teammate, Naruto Uzumaki, was the one who finished the battle. Kurenai Yuhi was the next to speak as the doubts and signs of rejection were already appearing across the jonin's faces before Kakashi finally spoke. Sasuke is strong and has a ton of potential, but he's not mentally ready for a job of that magnitude. It doesn't help that Orochimaru currently has his eyes set on Sasuke, and by naming him Hokage, we're essentially inviting another invasion whenever Orochimaru recovers. Because of that, I can't in good faith vote to approve of Sasuke. Everyone nodded and were all prepared to vote the same way when a voice rang out. Well, it's a good thing that he wasn't the one chosen. Then all the jonin looked at Shikaku after he spoke as more looks of confusion filled the room. What? I thought you said. I said it was someone from your team, but I never said it was Sasuke. Uchiha Kakashi kept his confused look centered on Shikaku until his eye went wide as he started to realize what he meant. If it wasn't Sasuke, then that left only two options. The chances of Sakura being chosen were non-existent thanks to her limited ninja skills and judgmental mindset. That means you're telling me that the one chosen was. Yes, Minato Namikaze-sama's son. Naruto Uzumaki. Has been chosen as the fifth Hokage of Konoha. When Shikaku spoke, everyone became stone-faced and unmoving as they stared at him, the words not sinking into their heads. Naruto Uzumaki. The kid that was despised by the public because of his birth. The kid who played pranks on all of the villagers. The kid who many thought had only beaten Neji because of a fluke. That Naruto. After the initial shock and confusion, everyone began to look around before all of their eyes landed on Kakashi, who was still staring at Shikaku. So Kakashi. Can you vote with reason and not emotion? Or should we have someone replace you for the vote? I can vote just fine, but Naruto is stronger than he lets on, and his mental fortitude is stronger than Sasuke's, but the risks that would come if he was installed as Hokage would be huge. Not only would the public most likely revolt in the streets, but the Akatsuki would immediately make us their number one target. Trust me, I discussed this at length with the other delegates on the way back. Many of them were split of course, while some argued that the public would come around in time, the others said that we would be thrown into civil war long before that happens. It's something we do have to consider. Does anyone else have anything to question? Yeah, I do. Asuma spoke as he took the cigarette from his mouth and crushed it in between his fingers as he looked at Kakashi. What do you mean by saying Naruto is stronger than he looks? I mean exactly what I say. I always had a feeling that Naruto was holding back, but that was proven true in the chunin exams. No regular person can have a grueling match with Neji like he did, only to turn around and be able to defend the village from another Jinchuriki like himself successfully. I don't care if Gaara did fight Sasuke beforehand, it's still superhuman either way. But he was always rated near the bottom of his class when it came to being a ninja. Why would he purposely hold back? I have someone who can answer that. Shikaku interrupted their conversation as he lightly tapped on the table before speaking again. I figured that we would all have a lot of questions, so I brought the person who could best answer them that wasn't Naruto himself. Soon after, the door to the room opened as Jiraiya walked in with a stern and severe expression as all of the Jonin eyed him, no one making a sound until the door was closed and the room was scouted over once more. I have brought Jiraiya-sama here, as he has some revelations that might surprise you all. Jiraiya nodded as he walked over and stood beside Shikaku before he began speaking. As I'm fully aware, you all have many questions regarding Naruto, and I'm here to answer them all. But before that, I want to state off the bat that Naruto has my full support for being the next Hokage. After discussing it at length with Shikaku, he also fully supports Naruto. The Jonin all eyed Shikaku, though he didn't flinch as he allowed for Jiraiya to continue. I was listening in, and after hearing Kakashi and Asuma talk to each other, I want to state that Kakashi is right about Naruto is holding back. The reason for this is because ever since he was a child, I have been raising and training him in secret. All the Jonin tensed up a little, but still didn't say anything as he continued. I wasn't always around for him, as I did, of course, travel the world, and it seems that during the times I was absent, he would often play pranks on everyone in the village. While this may seem immature, I want to make it clear that he did this because he wanted attention. The public always either ignored him or cursed his very existence, and when I wasn't around, this was how he was able to cope. A few guilty looks could be seen on some of the Jonin as they knew the reason the public hated Naruto was because of the third's decision to never tell the truth about how Naruto had in a way saved the village. Many of the villagers thought he was the reason for the very beast that attacked them. Of course, many directly placed blame on him for the loved ones they lost. The reason Naruto was always near the bottom during school was that I feared that if the villagers believed he was getting stronger and learning, they might amp up their attacks against him, so I told him to always barely pass, to make it seem like he was getting weaker. When he was assigned to Kakashi's team, I told him to act dumb and not show off any skills, just in case of spies. Now I'm not saying he doesn't have a playful personality by the way, but I am saying he has a serious side that I only ever see. Everyone seemed to nod and understand, but before Jiraiya could continue, Kakashi stood up and looked at him, then let me ask something until he's approved, he is still my student and I have a right to know. How strong is Naruto? The others looked at Jiraiya impatiently, also wondering the same question as Jiraiya nodded and spoke. Of course, everyone in this room has a right to know. Now if we are comparing him to the other Hokages, he's easily the weakest one. Of course, the flip side is that he is also the youngest one and has the potential to become the strongest one this village has ever seen. But regarding his current level of training, he can be compared to a fresh new Jonin. That strong Hun air of seriousness swept through the room, though Naruto would most likely have trouble against everyone in that room. The fact that at just 13 years old, he could already be compared to a Jonin was a testament of how strong he could become. Any other questions? Kakashi didn't say anything else as he began to sat back down, but as he was doing so, Asuma nodded as he stood up and pulled another cigarette out and placed it in his mouth. We've touched on this already, but I want you to answer how you think the village would respond to this. If we approve Naruto, then we're gonna have to explain to the very people that hate him that he now has control over their everyday lives. If you had asked me this just a month ago, I would have told you that it would suicide for this village. However, I believe people are starting to think differently about Naruto. Whenever I went somewhere and mentioned Naruto, I would get looks of scowls and curses thrown my way. However, just the other day when I visited a few places, I mentioned Naruto at all of them, and while the scowls were present, a lot of people said that they were relieved he was around to save the village, and they might have misjudged them. Now, of course, many still hate and despise him, but already we see people can be persuaded, and should the truth come out about Naruto, then I believe we have nothing to worry about. Asuma nodded as he sat back down, silence filling the room afterward as everyone could hear their hearts beat up, knowing that the vote for the future was approaching. Shikaku looked across everyone and spoke up. Does anybody have any more questions or statements? Toza nodded and stood up as he looked directly at Jiraiya. I wish to ask Jiraiya-sama, will you stay in the village and guide Naruto if we approve of his appointment? Of course I've raised him like my own son, I wouldn't abandon him, especially now. Choza nodded as he sat back down, seeming content with that answer. One last time Shikaku looked around and asked if anybody had any questions or statements, and when silence followed, he merely nodded as he picked a wood hammer off the floor and hit the table with it. As commander of the Jonin, I hereby declare that the vote to appoint Naruto Uzumaki as the 5th Hokage of Konoha shall now commence. You will vote with your blood by writing the kanji for yay or nay on the paper provided to you. In the event of a tie, then we shall have the one designated for tiebreakers, which is currently Anko Mitarashi, to cast her vote. Everyone nodded, and after one more tap of the hammer, everyone closed their eyes and bit down on their finger before they began to write on their papers. Despite having no one right beside him, Shikaku also closed his eyes as he voted, while Jiraiya walked over to the window and looked outside, not wanting to know the result before everyone else. After everyone had finished, they all kept their eyes closed as one by one, they slid their papers toward Shikaku, who picked them up and placed them in a pile until finally, all 10 had voted. Once he knew that all the papers had been collected, he banged the hammer on the table as everyone opened their eyes, sweat could be seen on everyone's faces. After another bang on the table, Shikaku began talking. I shall now tally all of the votes. Everyone kept quiet as Shikaku picked up a stack of papers and went through every single one, as the pressure and potential history of the moment could be felt pressing down on their shoulders. Every time Shikaku placed a paper face down after reading over it, made their hearts drop, until finally he read the final one and placed it down, as everyone internally gulped and kept their eyes glued to him. All of the votes have been counted, and of course the Anbu agents have made sure that they were all authentic by watching the voting now. By a final vote of 7-3, the appointment of Naruto Uzumaki as the 5th Hokage of Konoha has been approved. Shikaku spoke as he swung the hammer down onto the table as everyone felt a sense of relief, but a sense of fear as well due to the unknown. When Jiraiya heard the vote, he didn't turn around, but he did smile, and even had a small tear run down his face, as he kept looking outside as he muttered to himself, "You did it, kid." After making sure everyone had their eyes trained on him, Shikaku continued, the final step is, of course, confirming with the Hokage-elect that they accept the position, but I have a feeling that won't be an issue. Until the clan's heads have been informed, no one is to say anything to Naruto-sama. However, he is now the Hokage in waiting, and his life is the most important in the village. Even if it costs you your own life, you must make sure he is protected. Everyone nodded as the air of relief and fear suddenly vanished, as they all returned to their shinobi forms. Even the unknown 3 who had voted against Naruto were now ready to guard him with their life. Kakashi, for the time being, continue to treat Naruto-sama as nothing more than one of your students. But the same applies to you, he is the top priority, and even if it costs the life of your other students, you must protect him. Of course. Kakashi nodded as he felt mixed emotions. He was feeling joy at seeing someone he cared about to achieve their dream, but he couldn't help but think that this might be too dangerous for Naruto. Now Dragon. An Anbu agent with a dragon-looking mask suddenly appeared beside Shikaku. Your team is now in charge of guarding the Hokage-elect every day and every hour. You must never lose sight of him, but he also must never notice you. Failure to do this will result in death. Understood. After affirming his orders, the agent suddenly vanished as Shikaku let out a sigh as he took the hammer once more. Now, this session of the Jonin has ended. The hammer swung down one last time as the morning sun climbed higher and higher. As the sun got higher and higher, illuminating more and more of the ground below, Naruto slowly woke up from his sleep as the light hit him right in the face. When his eyes fully opened up, he noticed he was still in the hospital room that was currently housing Sasuke, who was still in a coma on his bed, while Sakura had fallen asleep right beside him. After adjusting his eyes, Naruto let out a small yawn, yet his nerves were bothering him. He felt off today, like something had happened, yet he couldn't put his finger on it. Not only that, but he felt like he was being watched as well, but no one was around and he couldn't sense anybody's chakra that wasn't nearby. Despite those concerns, he got up from his chair and walked over and looked at Sasuke as he let out a sigh. A part of him was kicking him for not being able to help Sasuke in time. Sure, he had saved Sasuke's life, but he still didn't make it in time to stop his injuries from being as bad as they were. He let out one more sigh as he walked back over to the window and looked outside as people were starting their day. While a lot of the village had been destroyed, there were still parts left untouched. So while the men spent days helping rebuild everything, the women would go to the relocated markets and help out their neighbors if they could. As Naruto looked down at the scene below, he heard footsteps and soon a knock at the door before it opened up. Knock knock, is anyone awake? Oh, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto gave a smile and a nod as he pointed toward Sakura, who was still passed out, though Kakashi merely glanced at her before looking back at Naruto. I thought you had some important stuff to do today with the others. It wasn't as important as I thought it was, they practically gave me the rest of the day off, so I decided to see how everyone was doing. I see, well then, while we're waiting for Sasuke to recover, how about we go and help out the villagers? I'm sure a lot of stuff needs to be done. Naruto stretched and began to head out when Kakashi stepped in front of him. I think it would be better if we did something else instead. Huh? How come? Well, even though Orochimaru was severely injured by the third, it's possible he has another plan in place. Because of that, the other Jonin have decided that for the time being, it's better for all of the ninjas to be ready at all times. Meaning to lay low and wait. Oh really? Is that why you were sent here then? Because of that decision? Yes, something like that. The two of them heard a noise and looked over and saw Sakura stretch as she woke up from her sleep. Her eyes were still, but when she saw Kakashi, she gave a smile to him. Kakashi-sensei, I'm surprised you're here this morning. What? I can't come and check on my students. Sakura gave a small laugh as Kakashi quickly turned his attention back to Naruto, but immediately was interrupted by Sakura once again. Oh, since you're here, Kakashi-sensei. I bet you know. Know what? Well, the delegate sent to the capital returned last night, right? I heard about it when I went out to buy some drinks last night to keep here. They were going to decide on who the fifth Hokage would be, right? Kakashi narrowed his eye but only moved his gaze to make it seem like he was looking outside. Yes, well, the Jonin Council was going to vote this morning. However, I'm quite close to the one they chose apparently, so I wasn't allowed to vote. Quite close. Could it be Guy-sensei then? Kakashi shrugged as he kept his unknowing look. Who knows, might be. All I know is that they're Jonin level when it comes to being a ninja, so they're qualified at least. Oh, I see. Well, maybe it was you, Kakashi-sensei, that's why they didn't allow you to vote. I doubt that. Sakura, I mean, if it were Kakashi-sensei, they would have told him because no one would vote against him. Shut up, Naruto, I wasn't talking to you. Sakura grabbed her can from the night before and threw it right at Naruto only for Kakashi to quickly jump in front of him and catch it, surprising both of them. Kakashi-sensei. It's a hospital, if a drink were to hit something and get on the medicine or equipment, why I think Sasuke wouldn't be too thrilled about that. Oh right, sorry. Kakashi nodded as he crushed the can as he looked back at Naruto. And Naruto, please don't aggravate her. Yeah, sorry Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi sighed as he threw the can in the trash and leaned against the wall, so both of his students were in sight. Anyway, I heard from the doctors that Sasuke should be waking up sometime between tonight and tomorrow, barring any unforeseen events, so we have that at least. Oh thank goodness, I'm so glad to hear that. Sakura put her hands over her chest as she looked at Sasuke, as Naruto also gave a small, sad smile. He was happy his friend was alright. The sadness came from the look Sakura gave Sasuke, making him continue to accept Sakura's true feelings slowly. Despite the sudden bit of sadness, Naruto shook his head as he pumped his fists as he looked at Kakashi. Well, that's good to hear. I've needed a sparring partner for a new jutsu I learned, and Sasuke is the perfect partner. New jutsu? Kakashi raised an eyebrow as Naruto nodded. What is it? You'll see when I use it against Sasuke. Naruto gave a big smile and a thumbs up, making Kakashi even more curious at what he was talking about. Oh yeah. Once we find out who the new Hokage is, I wonder if he would allow me to have a sparring match with him. He would be a fantastic training partner. If you can convince the Anbu Black Ops, then he might agree to it. Kakashi used his casual tone as always, though he did start to wonder how much the Anbu would let Naruto train once he assumed office, as all past Hokages didn't need the level of training Naruto did. It's no problem. I tricked those guys so much when the old man was in office that I'm sure it will be just as easy. Kakashi had to give a small laugh at that, if only because those guys were now in charge of guarding Naruto's life. Although I might know who the fifth Hokage is. Kakashi-sensei. Really? Stupid. There's no way you can know just from what he told us. Sakura yelled over at Naruto as she went to grab another drink, only to stop when she saw Kakashi glaring at her. Oh yes, I can. It's quite obvious if you think about it. This person is not only close to Kakashi-sensei, but has to be strong both physically and mentally. Out of everyone Kakashi-sensei knows, the most obvious choice is Shikaku-sensei. Shikamaru's dad. Yep. I mean, think about it. He's incredibly smart and a master strategist. Plus he has that shadow possession jutsu. He never has to worry about being attacked because as soon as the attacker gets in range, he can take control of them. Also, he and Kakashi-sensei play mahjong with each other, so I can see why they wouldn't let you vote Kakashi-sensei. Well, you have good points, Naruto. I wonder if he would even accept the position. He doesn't seem like someone who would want the job, to be honest. Come on, sensei, who wouldn't want to be Hokage? So if they ask you right now if you would accept the position or not. Is that even a question? Of course I would accept it. It's my dream to become Hokage after all. Believe it. Naruto gave another thumbs up as Kakashi nodded, another sense of relief washing over him. Oh please, Naruto has a better chance of becoming a school teacher than Hokage, so he never has to worry about being asked that question. What? Hey, Kakashi smirked as he watched his two students begin to argue back and forth, the irony not lost on him. The arguing though was interrupted when a knock came at the door before it opened. Figured I would find you here, Kakashi. Oh, Asuma. Finished with the voting. Asuma gave a confused expression before he saw Naruto and saw what Kakashi was going for. Ah yeah, we just finished. Asuma took a step forward, but before he could even get close to Kakashi, Naruto had jumped in front of him. I'm right, aren't I? Shikaku-sensei is the fifth Hokage, right? Shikaku. Asuma looked at Kakashi, who merely shrugged, causing Asuma to sigh. Ah no, it's not him. I'm afraid I can't say who exactly it is until they're sworn in, but I will say that the council did approve them. Ha. Told you that you wouldn't know who it was, Naruto. Ah geez, thanks Sakura. Naruto gave a low deadpan reaction before he looked back at Asuma, who seemed to be strangely staring at him, though Naruto dismissed as it being early morning drowsiness. Well, can you give me a hint at least? Let's just say that you'll find out soon enough. Asuma smirked at Naruto and went to ruffle his hair before his better judgment took over as he looked back at Kakashi. Although Kakashi, I have something to talk to you about, can you meet me in the hall? Yeah, Kakashi walked past Naruto and seemed to glare at Sakura as he spoke. Do be nice to each other while I'm gone, I'd rather not have the entire hospital chewing me out for your two behaviors. The two of them sheepishly nodded as Kakashi and Asuma left the room together. I wonder what's that about. Kakashi-sensei seemed upset when he left. I would say it's something about the new Hokage. I hope they're as half as good as the old man. Naruto had a sad look in his eye as he spoke, but he managed to shake it away. Oh, here Sakura gave a can to Naruto, who gave her a confused look. You may be an idiot, but I know how close you and the third were, so I'd rather not have you cry on me. Naruto looked at the can before giving a small smile as he took it. Thanks Sakura. Once Kakashi and Asuma were outside, Kakashi immediately noticed how thick the air was, as if a boulder had suddenly fallen on his shoulders. Jinjutsu. Yeah, the Anbu have this entire hospital under Jinjutsu right now. It'll stay that way as long as Naruto-sama is here. The room he's in is also under a different Jinjutsu, as nobody can hear or see anything in the room. They've also set traps everywhere, ready to go off on anybody they deem a threat. Also, a few Jonin have disguised themselves as patients and are patrolling the hospital. As soon as Asuma said that, a patient walked by with his eyes kept on Naruto's room, as he just gave a simple head nod to Asuma and Kakashi as he walked on by. I see. I never noticed how tight security was with the Hokage around. My father always ordered a low security presence whenever he went somewhere, so not to scare anybody, but with how everything is right now, they're watching over Naruto-sama like a hawk. I see. Naruto-sama, huh? Yeah, it's a bit weird to say. Unless it was official business, I was never formal with my dad, so this will take some getting used to. I think it's more along the lines that I could never imagine in a million years that Naruto would become Hokage at such a young age. I always thought he had the potential, but I thought it would be 10 to 20 years from now. Well, if everything goes well, then he'll still be here in that amount of time. I hope so, but anyway, what did you need to tell me? Asuma looked around before he began as an extra air of caution. Well, I have mixed news. I just got back from the Hyuga Manor, and the news about Naruto-sama was met with a small but positive reaction. Many of the members seemed unimpressed with the decision, but Hiashi said that he would respect the decision and pledged the clan's full support to help and guide Naruto-sama. Well, that went better than I was expecting, although it doesn't sound like they were overly happy with the news. That's an understatement, but they at least said they would support him. On the bad side of things though, it seems that for whatever reason, Danzo is quite pleased with the news that Naruto was approved. Danzo? Why would he be happy with that? It's no secret that he despises Naruto. It makes no sense for him to be pleased with our decision. Trust me, everybody is fully aware of that, so if you Jonin are keeping tabs on him, it doesn't help that he runs a section of the Anbu that is somehow even more secretive. As soon as Naruto-sama is sworn in, I advise you to immediately tell him about Danzo, Kakashi. Right. One more thing, Kakashi, I've not talked with the others yet, but I know that all of the clans should know by this evening, and because of that, we're going to mark all the ones who don't intend to support Naruto-sama and immediately advise him to install a puppet leader in all of them. Kakashi didn't like the sound of that idea, as that could immediately lead directly to civil war, but I guess we have no choice. For now, the time to negotiate is in the future, not the present. Yeah, the door suddenly opened as Kakashi and Asuma both immediately looked towards it. Naruto came out holding his wallet. When you guys said the hall, I didn't know you meant right outside of the door. Kakashi placed his hands in his pockets as he walked close to Naruto. Well, it's still in the hall, isn't it? Anyway, where are you going? I'm pretty hungry, so I'm going to go buy some ramen. I invited Sakura, but she said she's going to be with Sasuke until he wakes up, so I guess I'll be going alone. Naruto began to walk on, only to stop when Kakashi laid a hand on his shoulder. I'm pretty hungry myself, mind if I join you? Huh? Really? Sure, I haven't eaten anything today. What about you, Asuma? Yeah, ramen sounds great. Right about now, where exactly are you going to go eat at? Where else can you find great ramen, except for Ichiraku ramen itself? Ichiraku ramen, huh? Asuma cast a sideways glance over to a patient walking by who nodded as they sped up their walk before vanishing around the corner. Yeah. Ah, this is sweet. With 3 people, I may be able to get a bowl free. Kakashi and Asuma Goth gave a small laugh as Naruto walked in front of them and sped walk his way out of the hospital as the two of them kept close to him at all times. As the trio walked throughout the town, Naruto noticed something was off. He couldn't place his finger on it, but something wasn't quite right. Maybe it was because ever since he entered the hallway, he felt heavy for some reason. Perhaps it was because it seemed like there were a lot more people in the crowd than usual in the morning. Or maybe it was because Kakashi and Asuma seemed more than happy to eat with him. Whatever it was, it felt off, but unless it was something dangerous, Naruto chose to keep an eye on it, but not worry about it yet. Kakashi and Asuma, on the other hand, kept the surrounding area entirely in view as they walked, looking over every person who walked by and every window they passed by. Along the way, they saw that the patients from the hospital were now conveniently passers-by on the streets, while the general market that would be set up already wasn't for some reason. As they kept walking closer and closer, the crowd thinned out more and more until only the passers-bys mentioned earlier were seen, as they seemed to be enjoying the view. At least that's what it looked like to Naruto. When they finally arrived at Ichiraku, Kakashi and Asuma immediately noticed 3 Jonin standing on adjacent buildings observing the area, and when Naruto went under the flaps and into the stand, the passerbys suddenly stopped and began taking positions around the store. When Naruto entered, he smelt the most fantastic smell ever as he gave a big smile as he sat down as Tucci looked down at him and bellowed a laugh. You're here early this morning, Naruto. Couldn't wait, could ya? Haha. You know me, old man. I'm always ready for your ramen. Tucci gave another laugh as he began preparing Naruto's regular bowl as Naruto got ready to eat. Well, today's your lucky day, Naruto. To celebrate the birthday of my late grandfather, the first customer gets all ramen free. So Naruto, everything is on the house for you. As soon as Naruto heard those words, his mouth went agape as images of heaven filled his mind. Old man, are you serious? I never lie. Naruto's eyes sparkled as he quickly got ready for his first bowl of possibly hundreds. As Tucci was preparing the bowl, Kakashi and Asuma both walked in as Tucci gave a wave to them. Nice to see you two today, repair's been going well. Yeah, everything is on schedule. Kakashi gave a casual reply as Asuma sat down beside Naruto as Tucci walked over and gave Naruto his first bowl, who immediately began eating like crazy. By the way, mind if we have a quick chat? Sure, fine with me. I'll get your order when I come back, Asuma. Ah, it's fine, take your time. Tucci nodded as Kakashi went around the counter and departed to the back with him until they were out of hearing range. If you've come to learn my recipe, sorry to say that it's a family trait, Kakashi. When did you find out about Naruto? I learned it when Guy suddenly busted in and told me to shut down for the day. When I questioned why, he was permitted to tell me since I'm a retired jonin. Truth be told, I thought he was joking at first, but as soon as I noticed the increased security presence and the sudden genjutsu, his claims suddenly became feasible. Your daughter doesn't know, does she? Nah, I sent her home and told her that due to some construction, we couldn't open up shop for the day. Don't know if she believed me or not, but she finally left. I see. Well, you didn't have to make it free, I would have paid. It's fine. After everything that kid's been through, I'm glad to see that he's finally going to be viewed as something more than a monster. It won't be an easy transition, but I'm sure he'll be just fine. Besides, he can view this as a congratulations present once he's finally in office. Well, I hope you're prepared to match his appetite, especially with making it free. Trust me, I don't plan on opening for the day, so I'm set. Tucci gave another laugh as he patted Kakashi on the back. I will say this though, the kid is welcome here anytime he wants, and I'll make sure he's a top priority every time. I swear you're going to regret that. They both shared a small laugh as Tucci walked past Kakashi and back to the front. Well, I'm sure he's already done. Be a bad look if I made the Hokage wait for his food, eh? Yeah, Tucci nodded as he walked back to the front as Kakashi stood there for another moment. I hope you're right, I hope they do view him as more than a monster. About an hour had passed, and during that time Kakashi and Asuma had only eaten one bowl, and even then it was just a little bit before they slipped it to Naruto, who was already on his 15th, as Tucci kept his smile while he prepared several more bowls. As time went on, Kakashi was starting to worry about Naruto's stomach as he kept eating. However, that was interrupted when the flaps opened and the Jonin Aoba Yamashiro walked in as he looked at Kakashi. "Kakashi, I need to talk to you." Kakashi looked back before he nodded as he got up from his seat. "I'll be back in a moment." Asuma just nodded while Naruto raised one hand to wave, though he didn't look up from his bowl as Kakashi walked outside as he saw the security detail was still in place. "We just got word back from the elders." "The elders? What, did they say anything worth being worried about?" "Not necessarily, although when I told them about Naruto-sama, they didn't look particularly happy, but they pledged to support him. However, they requested for you to meet with them, and after I informed them you were busy with the Hokage elect, they requested to meet with Jiraiya-sama personally." What for?" "When I asked them, they said they had some important questions that needed to be asked." "It's nothing to worry about, I would think, but..." "It can be something to worry about though. No matter what they ask, he's already been approved and they can't change that. If they have any questions, they can ask the Hokage himself when he's inaugurated." "Yes, I agree, that's why I've chosen not to inform Jiraiya-sama of their request, as I feel like it would be inappropriate. But on the subject on the inauguration, those plans have been decided on, the private one anyway." "I see. Once all the clansmen have been informed, which is expected to be sometime tonight, then we will call Naruto-sama to the Hokage Manor and inform him of his appointment, which if everything goes well will be tomorrow morning. If he accepts, then he will immediately assume the role of Hokage, though the public won't be informed until the public inauguration, which is still being planned." "Tomorrow morning, huh? It won't be easy keeping it a secret, especially to Sakura and Sasuke. They'll notice if he suddenly isn't around them anymore, not to mention the others who are friends with him." "That's been accounted for, and we are preparing a way to make it seem like Naruto-sama is still going about his everyday life. Of course, wherever he goes will have to be heavily guarded and the like. For the time being, you have been appointed as Naruto-sama's personal bodyguard, Kakashi. While the others will switch out their shifts, you are to remain by his side every minute until his inauguration tomorrow morning." "I figured. Any other information?" "Just one last thing. Sunagakur has sent diplomats over and has agreed to surrender for their involvement in the Chunin exams attack fully. They'll be willing to assist us in rebuilding in any way possible and have even offered to release all Konoha prisoners they have taken over the years. The best thing to do would be to guard them until Naruto takes over and then have him agree to the surrender as his first act as Hokage. It would be a smart thing to do after all, as it would immediately make Naruto look like a powerful leader by having a village surrender as soon as he took over, even if it wasn't directly because of him. Shikaku has already issued that exact order. Currently they are being guarded by one of the Anbu teams at a local inn." "Alright, I'll get the full details from Shikaku later." Aoba nodded and was about to say something else when the flaps opened, causing both of them to turn towards it as Naruto and Asuma walked out immediately. "Finally done." "Ah yeah, those 23 bowls hit the spot," Kakashi chuckled as he gave a nod to Aoba, who returned it before he vanished, leaving the original 3 together. "But really, Kakashi-sensei, both times today that I left somewhere, you were right outside. Usually people go farther away when they're talking." "Well, I know you, Naruto, and whenever you're around Sakura or food, you couldn't care about anything else." Naruto got a small blush from embarrassment as Kakashi gave another small laugh. "But anyway, where are you heading next?" "Oh I was thinking about meeting up with Kiba for some training." Kakashi and Asuma both gave a glare before they looked at each other and nodded. "Well, that sounds good and all, Naruto. I think it would be better if we headed back to the hospital for now." "Huh? How come?" "Well, I heard the Inyazuka clan is currently helping out with the construction effort, so I doubt any of them have time for training right now." "Oh really? That's strange. Kiba even told me that he would be free to train this week." "Well, I don't want to hang out in the hospital all day." Kakashi started to think about what he could do when an idea suddenly hit him. "Say Naruto, how about me and you train together?" "Oh really, Kakashi-sensei?" Naruto's eyes sparkled as Kakashi gave a nod as Asuma let out a small sigh of relief due to his quick thinking. "Yep, and I'll tell you what, I'll even teach you a new jutsu." "Really?" Naruto got even more excited as he was practically bouncing up and down, about to fall right out of his shoes as Kakashi gave another nod. "Yeah, but only on one condition." Naruto stopped his bouncing as he gave Kakashi a confused look. "Only if you can finally pass this test." Kakashi reached inside his vest and pulled out the bells again. Sure enough, Kakashi pulled out the 2 bells from his vest that he used when Team 7 trained for the first time together. "If you can snag both bells before sundown, then I'll teach you something new, alright?" Naruto really didn't want to go through the trouble that was the bells again, but the thought of learning a new jutsu was too much to deny. "Alright, I'll do it. And I won't hold back, Kakashi-sensei." "Heh, good to hear." Naruto pumped his fists together while Asuma laid a hand on Kakashi's shoulder. "Well, while you do that, I have a few things to take care of. I'll see you in the morning, Kakashi." "Alright then, take care." Asuma nodded before he vanished in a puff of smoke, leaving Kakashi and Naruto alone in front of the raiment stand. Well then, shall we head to the usual training ground? Yeah. I'm pumped. Let's go sensei. As time marched on and the only noise present was the slow breathing from the one on the bed, Sakura sat quietly as she looked down at her kunai, thoughts racing through her head about what she could have maybe done differently to where Sasuke wouldn't be in the position he was in. Initially, she blamed Naruto for not being able to help and support Sasuke fast enough, but as her anger subsided and reason began to sit in, she realized that it wasn't just one person's fault, it was no one's fault really. The only one to blame was Orochimaru and his allies, nobody from the village was at fault for what transpired, especially since one of them risked their lives to protect everyone. As she sat still and continued to ponder, a knock was heard on the door and soon it opened as someone walked in. Shikamaru. The one who had walked in was Shikamaru Nara, son of Shikaku Nara and Konoha's resident lazy student. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow as he looked over the room before he looked at Sakura. Is Naruto not here? Huh? Oh no, why? Ugh, what a drag. Well, Kiba, Choji and Shino wanted to train and we figured Naruto would join us. Training? That doesn't sound like you, Shikamaru. It wasn't my idea, it was Kiba's, but with how everything is, I figured it's better than moving wood planks or concrete. Shikamaru sighed as he placed his hands in his pockets. Well, you know where he is. Oh yeah. He said he was going to the Ichiraku Ramen. I guess Kakashi-sensei went with him because I've not seen him since then. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow as he turned and leaned against the wall. Well, he's going to be disappointed. How come? Because the four of us were going there when all of a sudden one of the Jonin appeared and told us that the entire area had been closed off because of some of the construction they had to do. That was a pain, especially since we had been walking for so long. Closed off. But I walked past there last night and had no problems. Yeah, I find it weird myself, but I'm guessing something must have happened all of a sudden. Sakura nodded as silence overtook the two of them. Feeling a bit awkward by the sudden silence, Sakura began to wonder if Shikamaru would know. Hey Shikamaru, I was wondering something. What's up? Do you know who the fifth Hokage is? Why would I know that? Well, your dad is on the council that votes, right? I heard from Kakashi-sensei that they were going to vote sometime this morning and Asuma-sensei later confirmed that whoever it was approved. Yeah, dad told me that they voted earlier. I have no idea who it is though, but I'm guessing it's one of the top Jonin. Yeah, I thought that as well. They actually asked Kakashi-sensei not to vote because he was too close to whoever they were voting on, which makes me think it might be Guy-sensei. I don't think he would accept it, to be honest, and if he did, I don't think we would hear the end of it from Lee. True, I doubt Guy-sensei would keep it hidden from Lee, either. Maybe that's why they closed down that street for the day. Because whoever is the next Hokage was somewhere on it. Well, it did seem a bit off I guess, so that's possible, but there's not anything on that street for someone who is about to become Hokage to go to. Maybe they went to Ichiraku. I doubt someone as powerful as the Hokage would want to eat ramen for breakfast. Sakura shrugged as if to say maybe, maybe not. Well anyway, if you see Naruto, go ahead and tell him to meet us at my house. Alright, will do. Shikamaru nodded as he left the room, leaving Sakura by herself as she looked back down at her kunai. The fifth Hokage. I hope whoever it is, I hope they can make the ones who did this pay. As the sun got closer and closer to sundown, Naruto was heavily breathing as his back laid against one of the tree stumps in the training field. Though he had managed to actually grab one of the bells halfway through, his energy had mostly left him after an entire day of running around trying to catch Kakashi, and he was beat. As Naruto stood there, Kakashi appeared in front of him, the bell still in his hand. Well, it's sundown. I'll give you credit, Naruto, you managed to get one today. Not both of them though, so the new jutsu will have to wait. Be damn it, but I got closer, Kakashi-sensei. I'll get it one of these days. Both bells. Naruto was breathing heavily as his body ached, though it was a good ache, an ache that signified that he had accomplished something today. Kakashi nodded as he placed the bell in his vest pocket. Indeed, you are getting better, though you still have much work to do. Perhaps when you get some free time again, we can practice once again. Then how about tomorrow? Naruto gave a competitive smile to Kakashi, who kept his eye trained on Naruto. Well, tomorrow is going to be a busy day, a lot of things are planned. But maybe if we get some free time, we can do some exercises. Hey, awesome. Despite wanting to collapse right there, Naruto pushed himself off the stump and slowly walked over to Kakashi. Remember, when I get the second bell you promised a new J-jutsu. Naruto suddenly started to fall backward, only for Kakashi to quickly catch him and slowly lower him to the ground as Naruto was passed out asleep. Kakashi kept his eyes trained on him until he heard footsteps behind him. Didn't know you had that much energy, Kakashi. Well, when you're dealing with kids, you kinda have to. Kakashi looked over as Asuma had re-emerged from the bushes. He's pretty good for his age, I saw you struggle at several points. Yeah, if I didn't try, then he would have easily gotten both bells. It's incredible how good he can be when he's not holding back. Though he has a long way to go, I believe with a few years of training, he'll be the best in the village. Considering he's now Hokage, I pray so. Speaking of which, all of the clan's heads now know. Any problems? Not that I heard, though some like the Hyuga clan only promise to respect the decision and give support when necessary. Others such as the Inyazuka clan fully recognize the decision and promise to support the new Hokage every minute of every day. Well, that went better than I was expecting, though it will be good to keep an eye on all of them. Agreed. But since they all know, I guess that means Asuma nodded as he looked down at Naruto. Yeah, tomorrow morning, Naruto Uzumaki will officially assume the duty of Hokage. A sharp wind blew throughout the training field as the two shinobi kept their looks on Naruto. The night rolled on throughout the village, many of its inhabitants were fast asleep, while the night owls were either doing some sort of job or roaming the streets about to pass out from drinking. However, the few who weren't shinobi noticed increased movement around the Hokage tower, as every minute jonin were entering and leaving the place. Even some chunin were seen roaming around the tower, and for any drunks who got close, they were immediately escorted home by someone. While many citizens knew that something was taking place, they didn't know what exactly. Some thought a new Hokage had been decided on, and they were preparing for him. Others felt that perhaps the council hadn't voted yet and were setting up to do so. Not like they would ever know the answer. The ordinary citizen knew nothing of the governmental affairs, and that was for the best, especially since many citizens might be upset if they knew exactly who was about to assume the office of Hokage. As the night continued, one of the legendary Sannin made his way down the street, his large scroll on his back as a sense of pride resonated throughout his body. As he got closer to the tower, many of the shinobi quickly eyed him before returning to their duty, the members of the Hyuga clan who had been swiftly summoned, confirming his chakra to make sure he was the real deal. As he walked up to the door, the one standing guard at it gave a smile to the Sannin as he got closer. Jiraiya-sama, it's nice to see you again. Iruka, it's been a while. Still teaching at the academy? It's where my passion lies, so of course haha. I'm guessing you're here to attend the private ceremony for the 5th. Yeah, I am. Have you been told yet who it is? Iruka sighed as he shook his head. No, only the Jonin know the Chunin have been called here for extra security, but we've not been told anything regarding the event. We don't even know who the 5th is. All we've been told is that he's expected to arrive sometime early in the morning and that the entire area has been encased in some sort of genjutsu to hide who they are. I see. Well, you may be allowed to watch the ceremony. I'm sure you'll be surprised at who it is. Huh? You know who it is, Jiraiya-sama. Yeah, I attended the voting. They requested me there to answer some questions about the Hokage elect since he still doesn't know he's been chosen. I see. Well, it's true that whoever it is won't be told until right beforehand. I am curious as to why they ask you to attend. The only person I can think of them needing you to answer questions would be Tsunade-sama, another one of the legendary Sannin, but everyone keeps referring to the Hokage elect as a he, so. Yeah, it's not her. Don't think being Hokage would suit her, to be honest. She's a little too brash if you ask me. I see they didn't break protocol and had you answer questions about yourself, did they? Jiraiya gave another laugh as he shook his head. No, I don't think I could ever do this job. Not only is there way too much paperwork involved, but I wouldn't have enough time to do my research. Jiraiya got a goofy grin on his face as Iruka raised an eyebrow. What was he talking about? I see. Well, I'm sorry to say that I don't know who you might be close enough to answer questions about them. It's fine. I've been training him in secret for years now. Somehow the daimyo found out though, and that became one of the reasons he was chosen. Well, if they're your personal apprentice, Jiraiya-sama, then I think they're perfect for the job. Jiraiya got a smirk on his face as he nodded as he began to walk past Iruka and into the building. Well, I think I'll go take my seat before the clan's heads arrive. Be sure to congratulate the Hokage elect when you see him. But I don't know who it is. Trust me, when you see him, you'll immediately know. Iruka gave another confused look as Jiraiya walked inside of the tower as shinobi continued to go here and fro. The night continued peacefully, and that included one Naruto Uzumaki, who quietly slept on his bed in his apartment, the exhaustion from yesterday entirely taking over his body. Hours went by, and soon the night slowly started turning light as the sun began to creep up in the distance, its rays shining directly into Naruto's face, causing him to scrunch as he tossed and turned until his eyes slowly started to open up. As he awoke from his slumber, he pushed himself up and stretched as he yawned as he looked down at his clothes. Yeah, I passed out when I was training with Kakashi-sensei yesterday. Naruto gave another yawn and was about to fall back to sleep when a voice interrupted him. Sleep well. Hearing the voice, Naruto suddenly went wide-eyed as he pushed himself up and looked around until he saw Kakashi leaning against his wall, reading his book that he kept with him at all times. Kakashi-sensei. What are you doing here this early? Well, I brought you home last night, so I decided to stay with you until you woke up. Naruto gave him a confused look as he scratched the back of his head. That's kinda weird, sensei. Why did you? Naruto was cut off as out of the corner of his eye, he saw both Asuma and Kurenai leaning against the wall. Asuma and Kurenai sensei. Why are you two here as well? Neither of them spoke as they stayed in place, and soon Naruto saw that further down the wall were Choza and several more jonin. Why are all you guys here? Did something happen? Nobody said anything, though Kakashi did close his book and stuff his hands into his pockets as he turned towards the door as standing in front of it was Shikaku-sensei. After Naruto noticed him, Shikaku gave a nod as he walked forward as all of the jonin did as well as they surrounded Naruto's bed, making him sweat. Naruto Uzumaki. Shikaku spoke as Naruto leaned against the wall, not knowing what was going on. Why yeah. You know who all of course, but as per tradition, I must introduce ourselves as the Jonin Council. They all did an introductory bow, causing Naruto to raise an eye as he kept looking over all of them, trying to see if this might be a trap or prank by someone. Alright, why are you all here? I didn't do anything, did I? No, well, you've done nothing to warrant being worried if that's what you're wondering about. Shikaku gave a head nod to Kakashi, who returned it as he stepped up towards Naruto. Naruto, yesterday, did anything feel off to you? Yesterday? Well, now that you mention it, Naruto crossed his arms as he tried to remember, recalling that something did feel off early on. Yeah, it felt like something was heavy on my shoulders, and it also felt like I was being watched. Right, and that was because you were being watched. The Anbu Black Ops were following you all day yesterday and all night and are still watching over you. The heavy thing you felt was a genjutsu they had deployed to protect you. He protect me? Is someone after my life? Someone sent by Orochimaru perhaps? Kakashi shrugged as he looked outside. It's possible that there is someone out there planning to take your life, but we have nothing that can confirm that. However, we can't deny that either, so you're going to be protected every minute of every day from now on. How come? Kakashi looked over at Shikaku, who nodded as he pulled out a scroll and opened it. Naruto, you remember how the 5th Hokage has yet to be decided on, correct? Yeah, why? Well, that's the reason you're being guarded the way you are right now. Naruto raised an eyebrow as he gave a questioning look. What do you mean? Do I know who it is and you need me to answer some questions or whatever? Is that why I'm being protected? Shikaku shook his head as he looked down at the scroll. 4 days ago, the Fire Daimyo appointed the 5th Hokage of Konoha, and yesterday morning, the Jonin Council got together to vote on the nomination, and by a vote of 7-3 Shikaku closed the scroll as he kept his eyes on Naruto, who started to go wide-eyed. The council has approved you, Naruto Uzumaki, as the 5th Hokage of Konoha. As soon as the words left his mouth, Naruto's eyes went wide as his voice caught in his throat. He tried to speak, but couldn't. Every word he decided to form wouldn't come out. He just kept staring at Shikaku, who stared right back. Naruto looked over at Kakashi as some words finally started to form. Kakashi-sensei, this is a joke, right? Kakashi didn't say anything for a moment as he closed his eye and shook his head. No, he's telling the truth, Naruto. Naruto just stared at Kakashi as a mix of emotions began to swirl inside of his stomach, making him almost sick as he just looked across all the faces of everyone who was present. They were all serious, stone-faced really, showing no emotion as they all stared at Naruto. Naruto kept looking across all of their faces until his gaze met Shikaku's again, who spoke once more. Of course, should you refuse, then this meeting will never be spoken of again and a hunt for a new Hokage shall continue. The choice is yours, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto just took the words in as all kinds of thoughts entered his mind. Ever since he was a kid, his dream was always to become Hokage. Nothing ever came before that. Every day of his training, Jiraiya told him that he had to get stronger to become Hokage, he had to keep pushing and never give up. And here it was the offer the council voted, and they wanted him as their leader, no, as the leader of the village. Everyone would depend on him, everyone would need him, everyone might acknowledge him. Naruto cast a downward shadow as a tear ran down his cheek as he quickly wiped it off, everyone patiently waiting for his answer, until Naruto finally looked Shikaku in the eyes as determination swirled throughout his body. Shikaku-sensei, I'll do it, I'll become Hokage. As soon as the words left his mouth, Shikaku nodded as everyone placed their fists on their chests. Very well then, we pledge to serve you. Everyone got onto their knee and in unison said Hokage-sama. Naruto was taken aback from the scene, yet a sense of pride welled up in him as he couldn't help but smile as another tear ran down his face, causing him to wipe it away. Naruto smiled as he looked across everyone, but as everyone stayed kneeled, he got a bit embarrassed as he spoke. You guys can stand back up. Everyone immediately did so as smiles were on each of their faces, slightly amused by Naruto's embarrassment. However, that amusement vanished as Shikaku spoke back up. Now then, we have a lot of things to explain to you, Hokage-sama. I'll explain most of them on the way though. On the way to where? For your private inauguration, of course, you still have to follow tradition after all. Okay, are we walking? Everyone gave a small laugh as Naruto jumped off his bed and followed Shikaku out with everyone following closely behind. However, as soon as he was on the railing, he looked down and saw a chariot. I didn't even know we had those here. They're not commonly used due to the materials needed to make one, but we always kept one around for use by the Hokage. Sarutobi-sama never wished to use it as he enjoyed walking, so it's not common knowledge that we have one. ICW, wait, does that mean? Shikaku nodded as he gave a smile back to Naruto. It's pretty slow compared to how you usually travel, I hope you don't mind. No, it's fine, just different is all. Shikaku nodded as they all walked down the steps as Naruto noticed a heavy feeling again, most likely because of some genjutsu, while also noticing several jonin were around his apartment. Kakashi and I will ride with you while the others will walk beside it, unless you have different plans. No, that's fine. Shikaku once again nodded as he opened the door to the chariot and allowed Naruto to get inside first before him and Kakashi followed suit. Once the door was shut, the driver allowed the other jonin to get in place before he motioned for the horses draped with Konoha's symbol to begin their trot to the tower. Once Naruto settled into the chariot, the highly comfortable seat certainly helped with that. Shikaku, who had sat in front of Naruto along with Kakashi, began speaking. Hokage-sama, currently we are traveling to Hokage Tower for your private inauguration ceremony, which will only be attended by all of the village's jonin, the head of all the clans, and a special guest. The general public will not be made aware of your appointment as Hokage until the public ceremony, which we will immediately begin preparing for and hope that it will only take a couple of weeks until then. That said, however, we humbly ask that you continue to live your everyday life while still performing your duties as Hokage. Of course, you have every right not to. Naruto nodded as Shikaku took out another scroll and opened it up and began reading notes off of it. Now, as you know, being Hokage means you are the absolute ruler of Konoha, your word is law, and nobody is above your rule. If you feel like someone deserves a promotion, they will get a promotion. If you wish to change the symbol will be changed. If you wish to ban trading, it will be banned. If you wish to change the dress code, it will be changed. And if you wish for someone to die, they will die. Naruto gulped as he nodded his head as Shikaku undid more of the scroll. You will have a constant security detail escorting you, though you can of course keep it minimal, and the Anbu will never make their presence known unless you call on them. The head of the clans are no different than anyone else, they are not above you, and should you feel that one is acting out of line, a team of jonin will be sent to deal with them. Naruto felt more sweat fall down his face as he nodded, realizing how terrible it could be if the wrong person became Hokage. Finally, you will have many things to make decisions on, though of course, you can give the duty to someone else if you wish. You will also never be removed from power unless it's because of death or resignation, and should it be by resignation, you shall continue to live your life in luxury and be well protected. Shikaku folded the scroll back up afterward as he placed it back into his vest as Naruto processed all of the information given to him. Any questions? Just one. Will I be allowed out of the village? Well, we strongly discourage it. We can't stop you, as I mentioned, you are the ruler of this village and no one can stop you from doing anything you want. The law doesn't apply to you, there are no rules. Naruto gulped once again as he sat back in his seat as he looked outside and saw the sun shining on all the buildings as the carriage slowly moved past them all. Naruto kept watching the buildings slowly go by before he looked at Kakashi. Kakashi-sensei, I guess this means we won't be able to train anymore, huh? Well, there isn't any rule against it, although that jutsu I was telling you about. You can order me just to teach it to you if you want. No, I want to earn it. I may have achieved my dream, but I can't stop now. I'm going to get a new dream and it will be even bigger and better. Naruto gripped his seat as determination filled his eyes, making Kakashi smile. The chariot continued as the three inside went quiet, questions filling all of their minds as the sun got higher and higher, as all the jonin walking alongside the chariot kept watch over everything. As the chariot approached the tower, many of the chunin who were assigned to guard immediately tensed up a little as they saw the chariot pull in. They didn't know who it was, all they knew was that the Hokage was in that chariot and they knew to show proper respect. Iruka was one of the chunin as a part of him tightened up as the chariot got closer and closer to the tower until it finally came to a stop just a few feet away from him. The doors opened as sweat rolled down his face. Shikaku and Kakashi both exited the chariot first, and each of them took a side right beside the door to the inside of the chariot as all of the chunin and even the jonin watched the chariot, awaiting their next leader. Iru kept his eyes trained on the chariot and soon it shook as a hooded figure descended the steps. Indeed, to prevent the news from spreading, the next Hokage had been cloaked in a black cloak and had their face covered with an old Anbu mask. The masked Hokage looked around as none of the jonin with the chariot moved, their eyes still watching every corner around. However, as soon as the Hokage began walking towards the tower, they all started walking in unison, surrounding the Hokage like a barrier to prevent anyone from getting close and seeing him. As they got closer to him, Iruka straightened up and placed his fist over his heart to salute the Hokage, as the Jonin all lined up beside the door like an alleyway, as the masked Hokage walked in between them and entered into the tower, making Iruka sweat drop when they walked by him. Iruka did notice that the new Hokage seemed to be short, but he brushed it aside as being a genjutsu used to fool everyone even more. Once the Hokage was through the door, all of the Jonin with him lined up and entered into the tower, with the door closing right behind them, as Iruka heard the door lock, as his heart was practically beating out of his chest from nervousness. After a few moments, he realized that he had kept a breath in and let it out as soon as he noticed while sweat poured down his face, his heart still beating uncontrollably. The only thoughts entering into his mind were that he had to get serious now, as his new leader was inside of the building he was guarding, and he had to give his life to protect him. Once he was inside of the tower, Naruto stopped walking as Shikaku went to the wall and hit a hidden panel, as the floor started to move and revealed a staircase heading down. All of the Jonin headed down, while Kakashi and Shikaku got on each side of Naruto as Shikaku spoke. "We're going to take a left at the bottom and enter into the door, inside is the dressing room where we'll get you into your robes." Naruto just nodded, having been told not to speak until they were in the hidden passage as they began the walk down the steps, Shikaku and Kakashi staying with him stride for stride until they reached the bottom as the floor closed back up as the trio took a left and finally entered into the dressing room. Once inside, Naruto let out a sigh as he took off his mask and black cloak and placed it on a chair inside, while Shikaku and Kakashi both waited for him. Man, walking past Iruka-sensei and not saying anything to him wasn't easy. Shikaku gave a smile as he walked over and placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. "Well, in just a couple of weeks, you'll be able to talk to him all you want about your new position. Now I have to head onto the ceremony room and give the opening remarks. During that time, Kakashi will help you get into your robes. Near the end of my speech, one of the Jonin will come and tell you to come on, and you will then proceed to the door on the right of the staircase and wait until I introduce you. Afterward, you will walk down the aisle and to the front, where I will deem you the fifth Hokage and place the hat on you. Any questions? Do I have to say anything? Only if you want to, otherwise I'll give the ending remarks with you right beside me, and then we'll head on up to the office and get started." Naruto nodded as Shikaku gave a smile before he walked to the door and pointed at Kakashi. "Well, Kakashi, see you at the ceremony." "Yeah, see you there." Silence came over the two after the door was shut as Kakashi and Naruto stood in the room together, neither one moving as time ticked on and on. "So how long do you think it will be until I'm called for?" "Well, Shikaku figured you might have some nerves, so he's going to try to stretch it out for about an hour. His remarks will consist of a brief history of all the Hokages before you, and then he'll start explaining your life story to everyone, even if all the Jonin and clan's leaders already know the truth." The truth. Naruto gave Kakashi a questioning look as he shrugged and leaned against the wall. "Since you're now Hokage, you're going to find out sooner or later. However, someone specifically requested to tell you, so I'll keep quiet about it for now. Unless you want me to go ahead and tell you, Naruto." "Ah no, if someone wants to tell me, I'm sure it's for a reason that it's them." Naruto went quiet again as he looked around the dressing room. It wasn't grand or anything, consisting of a few chairs, a large mirror, and makeup set on the front table, should he choose to wear any. However, what caught Naruto's eye was the robes hanging right beside the mirror. Naruto gulped as he felt his heart trying to beat right out of his chest as he walked towards them. Once he was just a few feet from them, he reached out and touched them, the pure silk easily being felt. "They were specifically made for you. Had the best designers in the village work on that for hours to make sure it was perfect." Naruto looked back at Kakashi and nodded as he kept running his hand over the robes. The robes were exquisite, being white that reached down to his feet with a red keffiyeh that covered the chest and back with the symbol of Konoha on both sides and the kanji for Hokage under it. Naruto kept staring at them until he finally spoke after seemingly becoming lost in their sight. "This is really I'm Hokage." "Yeah, you finally achieved your dream, Naruto." Naruto kept looking at the robes before his hand dropped to the side as he looked back at Kakashi with a lost look. "Am I ready though? I'm sure there were more qualified candidates, right? In terms of pure skill, most certainly. But you weren't chosen just based off of skill. You were chosen for many reasons. One is your personality, always looking on the positive side. Another is your knowledge. Despite your grades, you're smarter than you let on. You still need training, but you have the potential to become one of the strongest in the village. You also fully believe in the people of this village and the village itself, and that in itself is a big reason you were chosen." "I see, so in a way, it's because of what I can become, not because of who I am right now." "I didn't say." "No, it's fine, I know that was also one of the reasons, which is fine, because that shows how much they believe in me." Naruto gripped his hand as he looked at Kakashi with another look of determination. I swear Kakashi-sensei, I'll be the best Hokage you've ever met, believe it. I hope so, my life is yours to command, after all, Hokage-sama. Naruto went red from embarrassment as he quickly swung his hands. Can you just call me Naruto, Kakashi-sensei? It feels weird if you call me Hokage. Kakashi let out a small laugh as he walked over to Naruto and nodded. Sure, though some of the others might find it weird if they hear the Hokage calling me sensei. Then I'll only do it when we're alone or with Sakura and Sasuke. Kakashi nodded as he looked over at the robes and motioned at them. Ready to put them on? Oh yeah, I guess I am. Kakashi walked over towards them as he instructed Naruto to undress down to his shirt and briefs. After taking off his orange sweatshirt, Naruto threw it onto one of the chairs as he undid the shorts he had on and also threw them to the chair, leaving him in just his white shirt and underwear. Alright, first the robe. Naruto nodded as he closed his eyes with anticipation as Kakashi took the outfit off of the wall and placed the keffiyeh on the front table. He raised the robes as he draped it over Naruto, who stood perfectly still until it was on and his head came out the top. Go ahead and put your arms through. Naruto nodded as he moved his arms around until he found the sleeves and placed them through until both were out. Once that was settled, Kakashi straightened out the robe some before picking the keffiyeh off of the table and putting it over Naruto's head as he proceeded to straighten it out and make sure it was even. After making sure the robe was perfectly on, Kakashi patted Naruto on the shoulder as he opened his eyes. Take a look in the mirror. Naruto turned towards the mirror and was amazed to see himself in the actual Hokage robes, something he had dreamed about since he was a kid. He then finally looked down at the robes as he moved around in them. Wow, they do fit perfectly. Told you they would. Now, go ahead and take off your headband. Whenever you're wearing your robes, it's best to either hide it or not wear it at all. Since we have nothing to hide it with right now, go ahead and give it to me. Naruto nodded as he looked in the mirror and undid his headband before he gave it to Kakashi, who folded it up and placed it on the table. Now, the final piece. Naruto gave him a questioning look as Kakashi walked forward and stuck his hand into Naruto's robe pocket as he pulled out two white gloves. He motioned for Naruto's hands, which Naruto complied as Kakashi placed the gloves onto his hands, making sure they were firmly on each side as now his entire body, but his face was covered in his new outfit. Comfortable? Ah yeah, very. This is really comfortable actually. Glad to hear. Never been good at dressing people, so I'm glad I did a decent job here. Naruto gave a small laugh as he kept looking at the robes until he looked at Kakashi. I was wondering something. What is it? Would it be alright if Iruka-sensei came in here? I know Shikaku-sensei said to wait until the public ceremony, but Naruto sighed as Kakashi just smirked as he nodded. Considering he was one of the few people to look out for you as you grew up, I don't see any problem with it. Thanks sensei. As the morning sun illuminated the area, Iruka continued to observe the many people who were looking at the tower from afar. Sure, they wouldn't be able to see anything thanks to the genjutsu placed on it, but a buzz was in the air around the village about the new Hokage after the entire area around the tower was closed off, causing many people to think that the new Hokage had been decided upon. Of course, not only had he been decided on, but he was about to be introduced to the village leaders, making Iruka highly vigilant as he watched every inch and corner, making sure nobody had somehow got around all the security. However, as he continued to watch, he jumped a little when he heard the door unlock as he immediately saluted, thinking the new Hokage was already done. However, when the door opened, Kakashi walked outside and closed the door behind him, making Iruka drop his salute. Kakashi. Iruka, I see everything is going well. Huh? Ah yeah, no problems that I can see so far. However, the fact you're out here means something's wrong, doesn't it? Actually no, everything is going according to plan so far, just have a request by the Hokage. Iruka tilted his head in confusion as Kakashi spoke. The Hokage wishes to meet with you, Iruka. What? Iruka was taken aback as Kakashi showed no signs of joking. Why? Well, you two know each other and I'm guessing he wants to talk to you before his life is forever changed. We know each other. Kakashi nodded as he opened the door and stepped back. Well, since he called for you, you're technically his guest, so I'll lead you to where he is. But what about my post? No worries, someone will cover it for you. After all, the Hokage overrides all previous orders you were given. Why yeah, I know. Iruka gulped as he walked inside of the tower as Kakashi followed before closing the door and locking it back. Iruka felt his heart about to beat out of his chest as Kakashi lowered the stairs and led Iruka to the dressing room on the left, each step making him more and more nervous about who possibly was chosen as the fifth. Once the two of them reached the room, Kakashi made sure no one was following them as he opened it and allowed Iruka to head inside. Once inside, Iruka noticed how nice and well kept the room was, not the most impressive, but a nice dressing room. As Iruka scanned the room over, his eyes stopped when he locked eyes with the person standing in the middle of the room. Naruto. Hey Iruka-sensei. Iruka raised an eyebrow as he took a step forward. What are you doing here? Isn't this where the Haruka's words caught in his mouth as he noticed what Naruto was wearing with the white robes, but he also noticed the symbol of the village and the Hokage kanji on his keffiyeh as he stopped in his tracks as his eyes moved back up to Naruto's face. Hokage Naruto you. Naruto gave an embarrassed smile as he scratched the back of his head. Why yeah I'm the fifth Hokage Iruka-sensei. Iruka kept staring at Naruto as his mouth slowly went agape as he looked back at Kakashi's eyes. He telling the truth. Yes, he is Naruto, or rather the Hokage-sama is telling the truth. Iruka's eyes went wide as his mouth opened even more as he looked back at Naruto, who was still smiling and rubbing the back of his head as he slowly walked over to him, each step making his heart beat faster and faster. Naruto I can't believe it I mean Hokage. Iruka closed his mouth and gulped as he kept looking Naruto over Naruto. Iruka felt a tear run down his face as he quickly wiped it off as he smiled at Naruto, who returned the smile with a smug grin. I told you Iruka-sensei, I told you I would become Hokage. Yes, you did. Iruka's smile grew even wider as he laid a hand on Naruto's shoulder. I'm sorry for doubting you a few times, but you proved me wrong like you have so many other times in the past. Naruto nodded as he pumped his fists together as he spoke. I hope I'll keep proving you wrong, sensei, it's what I do best after all. I can't deny that you always prove me wrong, Naru Hokage-sama. Iruka felt more tears run down his face as he saluted to Naruto and bowed on one knee towards him as Naruto was still taken aback from the gesture but gave a confident smile as he nodded. I'm glad to hear, sensei. Iruka wiped away more tears as he stood back up with a smile that a father might use when he was more than proud of his son, although kind of like with Kakashi-sensei, can you still call me Naruto? It's weird hearing anything else from you. Guess I can't refuse an order from the Hokage, huh? Yeah, that's fine. Although I'm no longer above you, so from now on, be sure to call me Iruka. You are sure thing, Iruka-sensei. I mean Iruka. Iruka laughed as he patted Naruto on the shoulder once again. Well, practice makes perfect, I guess. The two of them shared a laugh before Iruka gave a confident look at Naruto. The people of this village might not accept you, Naruto, they never have, but I think that can change, and I think it will change. You've proven me wrong time and time again, now it's time to prove them wrong, alright. This is the last order you'll ever going to hear from me, which is to make this village believe in you. Naruto got a stern look as he nodded before smiling. Of course. I'll do it. I'll not only make them believe in me, but I'll also make sure no kid ever has to go through what I went through. Believe it as the final task assigned by you. I'll gladly do it, Iruka-sensei. Iruka nodded as a knock was heard on the door before an older woman opened it. Hokage-sama, it's almost time. Naruto nodded as he looked back at Iruka. Well, I guess it's time for my private ceremony. You want to come? Thanks, but I have a more important job right now, which is protecting you. I'll make sure that as long as I live, nothing ever hurts you, Naruto. That's my promise, not as a teacher, but as a friend. And I promise this, I'll make sure that I'll lead this village into the best age of its lifetime, so the kids you teach won't have to worry about the stuff we worry about. That's a promise as both a friend and as the Hokage. I'm glad to hear. Naruto nodded as Iruka and him shared a quick hug before he walked over to Kakashi and nodded as Naruto left the room with the older lady as Kakashi looked at Iruka. I'll give you credit, you believed in him when no one else did, Iruka, all I can say is thank you. Iruka looked surprised for a moment before he smiled and nodded. Well, I'm his bodyguard until he says I'm not anymore, so I need to head on. Might want to hurry back to your shift before the other chunin finds out. Right. Kakashi left the room as Iruka stood in the middle of it as more tears ran down his face as he clenched his hand. Naruto, never lose that spirit of yours. Naruto followed the old lady down the hallway with Kakashi close behind as sweat rolled down his face, whether it was because of the moment or because how hot the hall wasn't entirely known, though if one had to guess it was because of both. As the footsteps echoed throughout the hallway, the door to the ceremony room came into view when they rounded a corner as the trio stopped right outside of it. The woman beckoned for Naruto to stand beside her, which when he did so, he was able to hear Shikaku on the other side of the door. I say this because we are at a defining moment in our history. We have concealed the truth and we have made Hokage-sama's life hell because of it, yet what has he done? He has continued to love the people of this village and every day he trains so he can be strong enough to protect them. I don't know how many other people would be willing to do that if they went through the hell he's been through. Naruto gulped as he heard that phrase again, about hiding the truth. He still didn't know what the village had been hiding, yet it scared him a little. Yet he had long chosen not to hold a grudge against the village. Of course, Jiraiya played a significant role in that decision. Naruto felt a pat on his back from Kakashi before he had walked over to the door with the old woman, each of them grabbing one of the handles as they faced each other as Naruto's heart began to beat right out of his chest. I want to end my speech with this: don't judge him because of lies that have been spread or some of the childish things he did in the past. He risked his life to save this village during Orochimaru's attacks, despite just going through a grueling match in the chunin exams. I ask that everyone here will support him and help this village grow. Now I ask for everyone to stand and salute as I introduce to you the 5th Hokage of Konoha, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto immediately heard the sound of drums as Kakashi and the old woman nodded as they pushed the doors open, revealing a medium-sized room with a giant flag on the back wall with the crest of the village. A grand stage in the middle with pews rounding out the sides, each one having the village symbol inscribed on it. When the doors opened, several jonin were positioned on the side with the flag of the village, with drummers playing the village's anthem. Naruto gulped as he began walking forward. Each time he passed a pair of jonin holding flags, they lowered them out of respect for him. As Naruto walked, he looked around, saw all the dominant clan's heads facing him with their fists over their chest, none of them showing any emotion but respect towards him. As Naruto walked, he saw that the very front pew only had one person sitting on it and was shocked to see Jiraiya, who was saluting like the rest, yet he had a smile on his face, and when Naruto's eyes met his, Naruto swore he saw a tear on Jiraiya's face, though after one of the flags was lowered obstructing it for just a moment, it was gone when he passed by the flag. The two looked at each other for just a moment before Naruto gave a smile and nod to him, before he looked back towards the front, where Shikaku and the other members of the Jonin Council were standing as they saluted him. Naruto stopped right before the stairs as he let out one long sigh as he began walking up them before he stopped right in front of Shikaku as the drummers played out the rest of the anthem, before finally finishing up as Shikaku lowered his fist and motioned Naruto to his stand on his right as he got back in front of the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my high honor to officially complete Naruto-sama's appointment as Hokage as I bestow upon him the sacred hat that has been passed down from the very first. One of the jonin off to the side brought the hat over as it rested on a pillow, as Shikaku picked it up and looked at Naruto, butterflies ravaging his stomach when he saw the hat. Naruto Uzumaki by appointment of the Fire Daimyo and as approved by the Jonin Council, you are hereby deemed the 5th Hokage of Konoha. Shikaku took the hat and placed it on top of Naruto's head as everyone in the room immediately kneeled towards him as Shikaku spoke once more. From this day forth, we are yours to serve, and just like in Naruto's room, the entire audience said in unison Hokage-sama. Naruto's breath caught in his throat as he looked across everyone in awe, the moment still not fully hitting him until everyone stood back up still saluting as Shikaku motioned for the podium, as if to ask if Naruto wished to speak. After thinking for a moment, Naruto nodded as Shikaku bowed and stepped back as Naruto got in front of the podium and looked across everyone, the weight on his shoulders growing heavier. I didn't have a speech prepared beforehand, after all just 2 hours ago I was dreaming about ramen, Naruto gave a small laugh. Some of the clansmen shared the laugh, though most just smiled at him as he continued. But to say this is an honor would be an understatement. Ever since I was a child, I have dreamt of becoming Hokage, and I always used that as motivation to keep moving forward. Of course, that wasn't the only reason I was able to move forward. People like Iruka, Kakashi and Jiraiya was also a big reason. Naruto looked over at Jiraiya as the two of them shared a smile, but I know that the real fight starts here. This village was just involved in one of the worst attacks we have ever seen, and many people lost their lives or at the very least lost loved ones. One of my teammates and friends, you all know him as Sasuke Uchiha, is currently still in a coma because of that attack. One of my first duties as Hokage is not only to help this village rebuild, but also to hunt down and kill Orochimaru, for not only that vile attack, but also because he killed a great man in the 3rd Hokage. Everyone in the room lost their smile as they nodded and had severe and attentive looks plastered onto their face, the hate for Orochimaru surfacing. Speaking of the 3rd, I'm not him, I understand that. I'll never be as great of a leader as he was, nor will I ever be as strong as he was. Yet I'll do my best to fill his shoes, as I promise his memory will never be forgotten. Everyone nodded as some of the 3rd's family such as Asuma cast a downwards look as Naruto went to finish up. I ask that everyone here guides me, because if I try to do everything by myself, then it won't end well. This village is as powerful as it is because we all work together, not because one man asserts his will. I'll be coming to everyone here for advice often, and I hope that you all are willing to give it to me. Most of the audience nodded as many were impressed by Naruto's sudden maturity, something he had never displayed to them before. I want to end this by asking a simple question I know that many people were more qualified than I am, or may ever be. I want to ask, and also want to state that there will be no repercussions for speaking if anyone here feels that I am not ready for the job. Everyone looked at each other to see if anyone actually had any objections. It seemed there was none until I have something to say. Everyone in the room immediately became tense as an old man came out from one of the pews and stood in the middle of the room, directly facing Naruto as the Jonin and clansmen all went on guard, yet Naruto took a deep breath and nodded. I see, you may continue. Now I don't have any objections to you, Hokage-sama, yet I want to make sure you're going to do something the 3rd never did. That would be compensation. The third ordered for my brother and his wife to be killed, leaving our clan without a true leader. We're already facing a crisis as our members are getting lower and lower every year. Everyone in the room glared at the man as Naruto kept his poker face on. May I ask who you are and what clan you represent? HMPH, my name is Unkai Kurama from the Kurama clan. Shikaku went over to Naruto to tell him who they were but. The clan that specializes in genjutsu, correct? Shikaku was surprised Naruto knew who they were, yet he saw Jiraiya nodding in approval, making him realize who Naruto learned that from. As expected of the Hokage, then you know that the third ordered for my brother and his wife to be killed in a house fire, correct? Naruto kept looking over the man as he gave a sigh and swung his head. I'm afraid I don't know any details concerning that event. HMPH. Well, it happened, I know that for a fact, and I believe my clan deserves compensation. Unkai, tell me something, are you the head of your clan? Huh? No, I'm a part of the branch family. I see, then are you the representative of your clan, or is the clan's leader here? Unkai went silent for a moment as he looked back at the pew he was sitting on. No, I came as the escort for the clan leader. Then, I ask for the clan leader to come out and speak please. After a moment of silence, a young girl, not much older than Naruto, if not the same age, stepped out. Wearing a pink kimono and brown hair, she stopped beside her uncle as she looked at Naruto stone-faced. I'm assuming here. Ikumo Kurama, my father was the head of our clan until his death, I'm now the head of my clan with my uncle guiding me for now. Naruto nodded as he motioned for her to continue. I believe the third Hokage ordered for my parents to be killed, just as my uncle said. May I ask why you believe this? I overheard the third speaking, and he said that if I became too much of a threat, then he would order me to be killed. This is because of my powers thanks to my bloodline. Yes, I've learned that the most powerful members of your clan have a Kekkei Genkai so strong that it can make illusion a reality. That's correct. Naruto nodded as he noticed Kurenai with a semi-guilty look on her face, making him interested in the story behind it. Well, as I have told your uncle, I don't know the full events of what happened with your parents. But I want to state that I knew the third very well, he was one of my mentors growing up, and because of that I can't see him doing something as heinous as that. But. However. Naruto spoke on top of her as he gave a stern look, I also understand that tough decisions have to be made sometimes, and that nobody is perfect. We sometimes do things for the greater good, even if it means making sacrifices, so I can't say it didn't happen. So because of that, I want to apologize on behalf of the third and myself formally. Naruto did a small bow towards the two of them, as everyone was taken aback by the action, especially Yakumo. I will review what happened that night and then I'll talk to you about any compensation that I believe is worthy. I know that nothing will ever bring your parents back, but I hope I can help ease the pain some. Yakumo was quiet for a minute before she wiped her face off as she did about Naruto. Thank you Hokage-sama. Naruto gave a smile and nodded as she straightened herself and went back to her pew to sit down. I hope this is satisfactory for now, Unkai. Unkai didn't say anything as he just turned and went back his seat as everyone kept their glares on him. Now, does anyone else have anything to say? Everyone looked around, and this time, they were even more sure they had no objections as Naruto let out a laugh. Then, I want to thank everyone here and I officially turn it back over to Shikaku for the closing remarks. Everyone saluted when Naruto walked to the side as Shikaku took back over as he looked across everyone. I believe any fears we had about his maturity has been answered, I also don't believe any more has to be said Hokage-sama, every one of us here pledged to serve you. Everyone in the room saluted as Shikaku said one last thing. This concludes the ceremony for Naruto Uzumaki as the 5th Hokage of Konoha. Everyone let out a cheer as the drums began playing again as Shikaku led Naruto down the aisle, as the flags were lowered once again when he walked by, as some of the clansmen either bowed towards him or reached their hands out as Naruto shook them, a bit overwhelmed by the moment as a goofy grin was plastered on his face. From the door though, Kakashi just watched, a smile present under his mask. Naruto, when Jiraiya said you had a hidden mature side, I didn't think it meant you could hold the presence that a Hokage would hold. This village is in safe hands under you, I hope the people around you lead you in the right direction. After shaking more hands than he ever thought he would and thanking everyone who bowed towards him, Naruto was finally guided out of the ceremony room by Shikaku as Kakashi joined them as the three headed back to the main floor. As they walked, the sounds of the ceremony room getting quieter and quieter, Shikaku looked back as he spoke. Hokage-sama, though not many things are planned today, since we need to get you back out into the village so not to raise suspicion, we do have something major that needs to be heard. What is it? The village of Sunagakur has agreed to surrender for their involvement in the Chunin exams attack and has sent delegates over to discuss the surrender conditions. The delegates are currently being guarded at one of the local inns. Naruto gulped as he nodded, knowing that his first test as Hokage was already fast approaching him. I see, do you know the basics of it? From what they've said, they will send monetary relief to assist in the reconstruction efforts, along with supplies for people who lost their homes. They will also release all our prisoners that they have taken over the years. Naruto nodded, that sounded pretty good. But. That sounds a little too good, I know it's a surrender, but. Yes, I thought so as well, and it is a little too good to be true. They are also requesting we release all of their prisoners as well, and also wish for us not to send any units out to kill the trio of Gaara, Kankuro, and Temari. Naruto clenched his hands when he heard the names before releasing them as he let out a sigh. Well, it seems it won't be as easy of a negotiation as it initially sounded like. Shikaku and Kakashi both eyed each other as they kept walking up more and more stairs, the servants not being allowed to leave their rooms so as not to find out who the new Hokage was quite yet. Finally, they reached the top floor as they stopped right before the Hokage's office as Naruto took a deep breath, having been in the room many times, yet Hokage-sama, this is your office. Shikaku spoke as he opened the door, revealing the same office Naruto had been in so many times. Yet despite being the same room, Naruto felt like a stranger in the room as he walked in and looked around, all of the personal items of the third already taken down. The room is rather simplistic right now, as soon as the public ceremony has finished, we will begin decorating it with your own belongings. Naruto just nodded as he walked over to the desk and looked at it, a small nostalgic smile gracing his lips as he rubbed the top of it before he walked around and pulled the chair out. He looked at for what felt like forever before sitting down in it and pulling himself up to the desk as he leaned back, the room he had been in so many times, seeming so much larger than it actually was. Kakashi and Shikaku stood in front of the desk unmoving as Naruto kept looking everything over before sighing as he looked at Kakashi, I have a lot to do, but I guess I can't do it all at once, huh? Well, you can if you wish, but the Jonin Council believes it would be best for you to do a few tasks each morning before returning to the village, so nobody suspects you. It's your choice of course. No, if that's what the Jonin Council believes is best, how can I argue with them? Naruto gave a small laugh as he sat up in the chair so, other than the surrender discussions, what other urgent things need to be attended to? Well, plenty of little paperwork needs to be done, but it's not urgent. I would say the most urgent thing is the slow recovery effort by the village. The citizens were not trained for construction, and as such the repairs are slow, and the job isn't exactly satisfactory, to say the least. Naruto listened to Shikaku's words as he nodded. Can we hire anybody? We sent out a request, but the only offer came from a faraway village, and because of how long the travel would be, their rate is quite expensive. Naruto nodded as he looked down at the paper Shikaku laid on his desk as his eyes went wide at their asking price. Yeah, that's why Naruto couldn't count how much ramen he could buy with that much as he looked over the damage report and what else needed to be done as he began to think. Kakashi, that mission we did, the one with Zabuza and Haku. We met a bridge builder in the land of waves I believe. Yeah, his name was Tazuna. Naruto nodded as he leaned back in his chair. You think they would be willing to assist? He has quite a few workers under him and I think they finished the bridge they were working on. Well, Kakashi looked at Shikaku who handed another paper to Naruto. We sent out a request to them, however, it seems many mercenaries are still after their lives, specifically the bridge builder you mentioned. We don't exactly know why, but not only would we have to fund their projects here, but we would also have to fund a defense for them. Naruto looked it over and sighed as he began to think once again. Sensei always had a plan for this. Shikaku looked at Kakashi when Naruto said sensei, though Kakashi just shrugged, he always liked combining two missions, so to make a greater reward, so why don't we try that? What do you mean? We'll have Suna pay for them, and they said they were going to give money for the reconstruction effort anyway. So we'll have them pay the bridge builders and also pay us to protect the builders, we don't lose anything, and we also can hurry up the reconstruction. That can work but I don't know if they would agree to that. Well, it's called negotiations, isn't it? Besides, sensei hates playing mahjong against me because he says he can't read my expressions. So I won't show any emotion, I'll treat them like I treat a game of mahjong, serious and no emotion. Naruto had a goofy expression as he smiled as Kakashi and Shikaku looked at each other in confusion. Anyway, go ahead and have them come here, the longer we wait, the more impatient they might become. Understood. Shikaku saluted as he vanished in a puff of smoke as Naruto looked at Kakashi. Kakashi-sensei, inform Asuma-sensei to have his team on standby. How come? Because they're going to have some builders to escort. After Kakashi left, Naruto patiently waited in his office as he kept looking over the costs of everything as he tried to form plans in his head until a knock was heard on the door as Shikaku came in. Hokage-sama, the delegates from Sunagakur. Naruto nodded, he placed the papers down as he folded his hands as Shikaku led the delegates inside. The two delegates walked inside and when they locked eyes with Naruto, all three of them narrowed their eyes as the man spoke. Why you? Of all the people to delegate that request about you two and Gaara makes more sense now. The delegates were none other than Kankuro and Tamari, both of whom looked less than pleased to be there, but I'm surprised, just 2 delegates. DCH, the village council is trying to frame this on Orochimaru and us, so this is our punishment, to surrender ourselves. Naruto nodded as Tamari spoke in a harsh tone as her and Kankuro sat down on the seats in front of the desk, but to think that the one who defeated Gaara was the Hokage in waiting, I guess it makes a bit more sense now. Trust me, it was a surprise to us all. Naruto gave a small laugh to lighten the mood, but after seeing the 2 sand ninjas stay stone-face, he lost his smile as he looked down at the surrender request. Now a few things on here need to be changed. What a surprise, you want more. You are the one surrendering, don't forget that. Tamari gave another whatever face while Kankuro gripped onto his pants. Regarding the aid to our village, I wish to change this. What, don't want our help with it? On the contrary, I offer a compromise. You see, our village was not equipped to build and repair large amounts of damage, we have often relied on outside groups to do that. However, this is the biggest attack on our village in years, and so the prices for such an outsider is quite high. Your point? My point is this, we have a group of constructors from the land of waves who are willing to come here and repair everything. They are cheaper than anybody else, yet the leader of their group is sought after by many mercenaries, and because of this, they cannot safely make it here. I'm offering that instead of paying us outright, you owe one-time payment for their protection and then a monthly fee for their work here. Well, long-term this will cost you more money, your village is facing a financial crisis right now, right? The 2 of them didn't say anything, yet Naruto could read on their faces that he was right. Well, this will allow you to save money in the short term and only give out smaller amounts of cash per month instead of one big payment all at once. I believe this is fair for both sides. The 2 of them looked at each other and whispered a few things as Kankuro spoke. Only if. No. Naruto cut the both of them off as he looked across both of their faces. I'm offering to not devastate your economy all at once, after all, if the village had an economic crisis right now, while not having a cage. It sounds like civil war to me. The 2 of them glared at Naruto before they whispered to each other again, as Kankuro sighed as he spoke. Fine, we'll accept that. Naruto smiled as the old woman from the ceremony, who had accompanied the delegates, began writing up a new surrender agreement. Now on to the next topic is for supplies, this is not a high enough number to make an impact. Of course we need more, but I understand that supplies such as food and water are not easy to give away, even in a surrender agreement. So I offer another compromise to this. Naruto pulled out a document and laid it on his desk. This is the current trade agreement between our 2 villages, it's outdated, to say the least, as the materials in it are no longer needed by either village. I'm willing to start a new trade agreement between our villages where you will send food and water every week and in exchange, we will remove all tax tariffs on our products for you. Tax tariffs? I was reading while I waited for you two and found out that if another village wishes to buy items from us, they are required to pay a 25% tax. I'm willing to get rid of that for your village in exchange for food and water every week. This will allow your village to buy items from us that you may not normally find and not have to pay extra. Kankuro and Tamari both seemed surprised by this as they looked at each other as Tamari spoke. What game are you playing? I thought you said we were the ones surrendering. You are, don't get me wrong, I'm not doing this out of the goodness of my heart. But our people need all the supplies they can get, and while a bunch of supplies all at once can help, a weekly supply of them will be even better, but to get that, I need to give up something, with that being the terrace. Is this acceptable as well? This should offset the long-term effect of the builders, correct? Kankuro and Tamari whispered to each other once again before Kankuro spoke. Alright, that's fine. Naruto nodded as the old woman added the trade agreement terms to the surrender document. On to where things become a bit iffier, you wish to do a prisoner exchange, all of your prisoners for all of our prisoners, correct? Yeah. The problem with that is that we did take some prisoners during the chunin exams attack. We will release all prisoners not involved in that attack, but anyone who was taken as a prisoner of war during the attack will stay with us. Agree? Kankuro went to speak, but Tamari beat him to the punch. This is the one thing the council wanted the most, was all of the prisoners released, including the ones involved in the attack. I see, so this is non-negotiable, is that what you're saying? Tamari nodded as Naruto sighed as he tried to think of something when another idea hit him. Then how about this? I will agree also to release the prisoners involved in the attack, but with a catch. Every one of the prisoners who we captured during the chunin attack are never to be allowed back into Konoha, and should any of the shinobis from our village kill one of them outside of your walls, they cannot be held accountable. So what, are you going to kill them now? No, I'll put a week-long stoppage into place to where no one is allowed to have any hostilities with your village, including the prisoners. This should allow your prisoners to return home safely, and as long as they don't leave your village, they should remain safe. So basically, you're just making them prisoners in their own home. Well, you can look at it that way. Temari and Kankuro spoke to each other once again as Kankurori took the lead in the negotiations. Fine, we have to get those guys back, above everything else. Naruto nodded as the prisoner exchange was added to the new agreement. The final piece is regarding the safety of you two, along with Gaara. I have no problems with this, but only on one condition, like everything else, right? Naruto gave a small laugh as he leaned back in his chair with a smile. Well, I promise to be more generous with this one. I promise to adhere to this, but only if you three agree to a training agreement with us. Training agreement? Yes, all three of you are worthy challengers in battle, and I believe Konoha could benefit from learning from you three. Kankuro, you are a master with puppets and could help the young ones with chakra control. Temari, you are excellent at long-range combat, something that many of our own are only novices with. Finally, regarding Gaara, I wish to get to know him better, if only because I sense something in him that I feel. What would we get out of the deal? Just our protection. Well, if that's all you want. Naruto gave a small laugh as he leaned up in his chair and placed his hands back onto the table. I'll pay all three of you if you agree to assist in training, and it will be fair payment as well. You'll also have access to the facilities that our own shinobi use, such as the local training grounds, and if you desire, I'll have an escort prepared for you every time you travel between our two villages. Kankuro and Temari both seemed surprised at the deal as they talked to each other far longer than any of the other subjects, as Kankuro spoke one last time. Alright, we'll do it. Excellent. The old woman finished up writing out the new surrender agreement as she handed it to Naruto, who looked it over and smiled as he handed it to Kankuro. I'll allow the two of you read it over before I sign it, in case you have a change of heart. Kankuro and Temari both looked over the paper, and after a few moments of hesitation, Kankuro laid the article on the desk as the two of them signed it and handed it back to Naruto. Naruto smiled as he signed his first ever document as Hokage as he extended his hand. I'll send over a copy of this to your village, so it should already be there when you arrive back home. They both looked at the extended hand, though neither one returned the shake as Naruto let his hand fall back down to the desk. Kankuro just sighed as he began walking back, though Temari just stood in front of Naruto before she started speaking. What game are you trying to play? That was too generous of a surrender agreement. We both got what we want to a degree, and I don't see. The problem is that it's a surrender agreement, both sides aren't supposed to benefit from it. While it's true that Konoha is the winner in the deal, it still benefits Suna to a degree. Why is that? Temari kept her stone-cold look on Naruto, who just gave a small laugh as he pushed himself up from his seat to meet her at eye level. While it's true that it was a surrender, and your village does have to owe us, it's also true that the people of your village were following orders, while the civilians weren't involved at all. While I could devastate your entire village by demanding everything, I know all too well how it feels to live on your own and to survive off the streets. I don't wish for anyone, not even a rival village, to go through that. At the same time, I also see Suna as a strong military power, and depending on the next Kazakiage, I wish to ally in the future, so think of this as my olive branch for that. Temari stared at Naruto directly in the eyes as she processed what it just said. A leader is only supposed to care about his own people, not anybody else. Was that how the fourth Kazakiage was? Temari bit down on her lip and didn't say anything as Naruto continued. Well, I feel that's how a lot of people might be, and while the people of Konoha come first, I'm not going to destroy another person's life just because of where they were raised. That's just me though. Temari kept looking at Naruto before she looked down with a confused look in her eye. How the hell did someone as soft as you become Hokage? She didn't say anything else as she turned and left with Kankuro, leaving just Naruto, Shikaku and the old woman in the room, though shortly after the woman left as well, her job of creating the new treaty being fulfilled. After a moment, Naruto let out a long sigh as he fell back into his chair with an exhausted look. Man, that was tense. I could feel my heart beating out of my chest. Shikaku looked at Naruto with surprise as he spoke. Well, I must say, I wasn't expecting that type of diplomacy right off the bat. Well, ever since I was young, sensei has made me barter with shopkeepers and bartenders, so I'm kinda used to making deals. I just treated it like I dealt with them, make it seem really good to them when it's actually much better for you. Well, I'm glad to hear that all that practice actually meant something in the end, because that is a fantastic agreement in my opinion. Naruto gave a sheepish smile as along with a small laugh as he looked back over the papers. Kakashi is having Asuma prepare his team to guide the bridge builders from the land of waves to Shikaku, have Guy and Kurenai prepare their teams, and then have the two of them report to me. Of course Hokage-sama, though may I ask what for? The prisoner exchange. I'll have both of their teams go with Temari and Kankuro, along with the Suna prisoners back to their village, and then I'll have them escort our own prisoners back, as I'm sure many of them are in no physical condition to fight. I see. I agree as well, they may be lacking in physical strength after so long, so an escort is needed. Plus by guarding the delegates and their own prisoners, we can further extend that olive branch you were talking about with them. Yeah, that is well Naruto wasn't exactly thinking about it like that, he just thought it would be the reasonable thing to do, but hey, it all works out. One last thing, what are the other jonin doing? Well, a few are on some low-level missions, but many of them are still guarding the village in case of a counterattack. I see well have all the available jonin, chunin and genin go around the village and start handing out food and water to the homeless, especially the women and children. Since Suna will be sending a weekly supply, we can afford to start digging into the rations a little bit. Shikaku saluted as Naruto signaled he may leave. After Shikaku vanished and Naruto was all alone, he let out one long sigh as he slumped in his chair. It's only been a few hours, and I'm already beat. I could go for some Ichiraku right now. Team Asuma. The early morning sun shone brightly as Shikamaru slumped in his chair, as the smell of food resonated from the kitchen of the restaurant he was in. Today was supposed to be his day off, yet all of a sudden, Asuma had come to his house and told him to meet up at their usual place. Despite taking forever to get out of bed and actually arrive, he still seemed to be the first one as the restaurant only had elderly people in it, many of whom would stay there all day if given a chance. As Shikamaru looked over the people inside with little interest, a voice popped him out of his wandering as someone sat in front of him. You too, huh? Shikamaru turned in his seat as Ino Yamanaka, one of his team members, had slouched down right in front of him, the sleep still not having left her eyes as she laid her head down on the table, wanting to return to the land of dreams. Yeah, it's a pain, calling us here on our day off. Did he tell you why? No, he just came to my door, woke me up and told me to meet here. Before I could ask any questions, he left rather quickly. Same, I was sleeping so well too after he woke me up, it took forever for me to do my hair and get ready. Ino and Shikamaru both sighed as they stayed slumped in their chairs, the smell of food getting closer and closer, until. Morning guys. They both opened their eyes and looked as Choji Akimichi, the last member of their team, sat down at their table with a plate full of food as he began chowing down. Choji, I'm surprised you're so awake. Well, I wasn't really sleeping anyway, Dad was gone all night as he said he had something to take care of. So I was pretty bored and spent most of the night training, along with my favorite midnight snack. Your dad was gone to Choji. Ino pulled her head up as she looked at Choji who nodded as he kept eating. He say where he was going? Nope. Just said something about a big thing that was happening and that it would take all night, have no idea what it was for. Same goes for me. Shikamaru spoke as he stretched out and basically laid across the seat as his teammates eyed him. I was planning on going around with my dad last night when he suddenly said that the Jonin Council had an important mission to carry out and he would be gone all night. That's weird. I know that your dad along with Choji's are on the Jonin Council, but mine isn't. I wonder what he was doing. Munch, maybe it had to do with the new Hokage. Munch. New Hokage? Oh yeah, Sakura was asking me about that yesterday and dad also mentioned it. Mentioned what? What's this about a new Hokage? Ino perked her head up as Shikamaru let out a sigh as he began to speak. Apparently the Jonin Council approved the 5th Hokage yesterday morning. I have no idea who it is, but Sakura thinks it could be Gai-sensei, since Kakashi-sensei wasn't allowed to vote apparently. Does that mean we have a new Hokage now? Well, from what I read, if they were approved yesterday morning, then sometime yesterday, they would have had a private ceremony for him and allow him to work in the shadows until his public announcement, so the chances of our dads attending that this morning is high, I would say. The new Hokage, huh? I wonder who it could be. Maybe it's Munch Gai-sensei. Munch, like Sakura said. Munch. I don't know, Gai-sensei has always come off as a goofball to me and don't even get me started on him and Lee. It has to be someone strong and maybe mysterious. Oh. They have to be charismatic and good-looking as well. If you're trying to say it's Sasuke, then you're way off. No way would they ever promote a genin to Hokage. I know that. Well, I think Sasuke is more than capable for the job. I think he wouldn't want it anyway. Well then, who do you think it is then? Obviously it has to be Kurenai-sensei. Kurenai? Yep. Think about it. She's very mysterious, not revealing her true side to anybody. She's very easy to talk to and gets along with everyone, and almost every guy says she's one of the best looking women in the village, and she's powerful. My only question to that is why they would forbid Kakashi from voting. I don't think they're exactly all that close. If anybody, they would forbid not only Asuma-sensei, but Kurenai-sensei herself, don't you think? Maybe Kakashi-sensei was lying to throw off the scent. Well, I guess that's possible. Munch, I think it might Munch actually be Asuma-sensei himself. Munch, why else would he call us out here? Munch. Again, I highly doubt it. Like with Kurenai-sensei, they would ask both her and Asuma-sensei not to vote, well, Kakashi-sensei wouldn't really matter. Also, if he was calling us out to tell us he had become Hokage, I doubt it would be in such a public place. It would make more sense to tell us somewhere private. Well, fine, Mr. Know-it-all. Who do you think the 5th is? Ino glared at Shikamaru, who just shrugged as he looked up at the ceiling. Who knows? They might not even be someone currently in the village, after all, they could choose either Jiraiya-sama or Tsunade-sama for the job. Well, they would be more than qualified. Shikamaru let out a long breath as the three of them continued to debate who they thought the new Hokage was when finally a fourth figure arrived. Glad to see everyone here. The trio looked at the new figure as Shikamaru said in a casual voice. You're late like always, Asuma-sensei. The fourth figure was indeed Asuma as he gave an awkward chuckle. Well, I had a few things to take care of, so sorry about that. Sensei, why do we have to meet up on our day off? Asuma looked at Ino as he gave a smile towards her. Because we've been assigned a mission, that's why. A mission? Is it so important that we couldn't wait until tomorrow? Well, considering that it came from the Hokage-sama, then yes, I would say it's quite important. The three of them immediately perked up as Asuma kept his smile towards them. The Hokage, you mean the new one? Well, unless my dad can issue orders from the grave, then yes, I mean the fifth Hokage. Who is it? Is it Kurenai-sensei? Asuma raised an eyebrow as he swung his head. Kurenai? No, it's not. Then is it Munchu? Asuma-sensei? Munch. No, it's not me. Is it one of the legendary Sannin? No, it's look, I can't tell you who it is until you found out like the rest of the village during the public ceremony, unless the Hokage specifically says he wants you guys to know. The trio just sighed as they sat back as Shikamaru looked up at Asuma. So what's the mission? Well, that's the thing, he wanted me to have you guys get prepared and then go find out about the mission. So it's not Kurenai-sensei or Tsunade-sama. Asuma internally facepalmed as he continued on. Again, I'm not going to say anything, but anyway, we're going to head on over to the Hokage's tower. Of course you three won't be allowed to meet with the fifth, so you'll have to wait outside. Well, better than falling asleep in this booth, I guess. Man, what a drag. Munch, can I get seconds first? Munch. As Asuma and his team walked to the Hokage tower, Shikamaru noticed how the closer they got, less and less civilians were seen, and more Jonin were present, until it was nothing but Jonin and Chunin guarding the area. Once they arrived at the tower, two guards were standing at the front gate as Asuma looked at them. Well, I'll head on in and get the mission details, you three stay here and wait for me. The three of them nodded as Asuma turned and headed inside, the guards keeping their eyes on the three genins as they walked over and sat down on a bench directly facing the tower. Ugh, this sucks, not only do we have to do a mission on our day off, but we don't even get to know who's ordering us around. Trust me, I'm no fan of it either, but if it's important enough for the Hokage to issue it and not the retired ninja council, then it must be pretty important. Still, Shikamaru. Couldn't he have picked some other team? Quit complaining, for all we know, every team has been assigned a mission, and we may have gotten the easiest one. Ino went to protest, but after thinking over his words, she just slumped on the bench, as the only noise were the birds and Choji's eating. As minutes passed, the silence was interrupted by Choji himself. I think Asuma-sensei just arrived in the Hokage's room. What makes you say that? Choji pointed upwards as Shikamaru trailed his arm as it pointed towards the windows on the top. I saw the Hokage's cloak move just now. His cloak? Shikamaru squinted as he looked up and was surprised as he saw white fabric resting on the armchair. Guess this is our first view of the fifth. What? Where at? Ino jumped up as she looked up at the window, and when she saw the cloak she just sighed. That's nothing, I thought you meant we could see something. I mean, it's better than nothing. Ino sighed again as she went back to listening to the birds chirping as she looked over as she saw some eating some crumbs that were on the ground when an idea suddenly hit her. Wait. I know how we can find out who it is. What are you planning? Watch and learn, boys. Ino got up and walked over to the birds as Shikamaru and Choji just watched her. Choji, I have a feeling this won't end well. Oh, is that what that feeling is? I thought I might have eaten too many beans. Shikamaru ignored Choji's comments as Ino formed her hand sign. Ninja art. Mind transfer jutsu. As soon as the words left Ino's mouth, her body fell limp to the ground as one of the birds hopped forward and lifted its wing, as if to wave at Shikamaru and Choji before it flew up towards the window. Now Hokage-sama, let's see who you are. Ino flew right up to the window and looked inside as she saw the backside of the Hokage, along with Asuma. I see his robes are different, let's see. Asuma-sensei is looking over a piece of paper, the Hokage is nodding. Ino saw her big chance as the Hokage moved his head to the side, and when she flew a bit to see it, let's see who you are. Wait, what? Ino couldn't believe it. How could she? She thought she would be in for a surprise, sure, but she didn't expect this when she came to investigate. Of all the things it had to be. How is this possible? I mean, Asuma-sensei is there, but where's the Hokage? Indeed, though his robes were present, there appeared to be nothing under the hat, as when she saw him turn his head, it was nothing but air, as if the outfit was moving on its own. This doesn't make sense. This is. It's called Jinjutsu. Ino internally shrieked as a hand wrapped around her as she released herself from the bird and returned to her normal body as she lifted herself up and looked at the window where a member of the Anbu was holding the bird in its hand. After releasing the bird, the agent vanished, only to reappear right in front of her as she backed up towards Shikamaru and Choji until her back was facing the bench as the agent crossed his arms. I'm sorry. I. Stop, I know you were trying to see who Hokage-sama is, but didn't your sensei tell you to wait down here until he gets back? Not only is disobeying him punishable, but you were technically trespassing on unauthorized land. Until the public ceremony, nobody under the rank of Jonin is allowed inside of the gates unless permitted by the Hokage himself, understand? Ino just nodded as the Anbu looked at Shikamaru and Choji. Those for you two as well, understand? The two of them also just nodded as the agent seemed alright with the non-talkative response as he vanished, leaving the three of them alone. I didn't even sense him, how? Well, they are a part of the Anbu for a reason, not just any section of the Anbu either, but the ones guarding the Hokage. Shikamaru yawned speaking as he closed his eyes. But yeah, I figured it wouldn't be that easy. Munch, Ino want some? Munch. Offering Ino some of his snacks after seeing her so scared, she just gave a small smile and nodded as he poured some of it into her hand. As Asuma trekked up the stairs towards the Hokage's office, he tried to think of what type of mission he would be assigned. All he knew was that Kakashi had told him to get his team ready and then report to the Hokage's office afterward. Nothing more, nothing less. After finally reaching the top floor, Asuma knocked on the office door before opening it as he saw the fifth Hokage, Naruto Uzumaki, looking incredibly tired as he looked over some papers. You wish to see me, Hokage-sama? Naruto looked up and smiled at Asuma as he laid the paper he was reading over and down. Asuma, welcome. Hope your team didn't mind the early wake-up call. I'm sure they'll get over it soon enough. So, I was told by Kakashi that you have a mission prepared for us. Naruto nodded as he searched through the drawers on his desk before pulling out a folder as he laid it on his desk. Yes, have you ever heard of the Land of Waves, Asuma? Of course, I've been there a few times myself, though it has been a while. I see, then that speeds up the process. I'm not sure if you are aware, but a while back, me and my team were sent on a mission to escort a builder to a bridge they were working on. What originally started off as a C-rank mission quickly became an S-rank one when we were involved in combat with the Mist Ninjas Abusa and Haku. Yes, I know about that mission and how Team 7 gained a lot of fame from it. If I'm not mistaken, Kakashi is the one who killed Zabuza while you took out Haku. I would say it was more of a team effort, but officially that is how it is worded. I say this because these same builders need to be escorted here to our village because they are to assist and hopefully speed up the recovery efforts from Orochimaru's attack. Now at its core, this is a simple escort mission, however, I have been informed that the builders, specifically the main one Tazuna, have been targeted once again by mercenaries, though what for I do not know. Because of this, I believe that this mission should at the very least be considered B rank. Well, I'll gladly accept the mission, sir. Wouldn't this be better suited for a team of at least Chunin? I only have Genin on my squad. Well, to be fair, the Chunin exams were left incomplete and because of that, until we redo them, we cannot promote any Genin to Chunin. However, I was looking through the many files in my desk and found that the retired ninja council has already recommended Shikamaru for the rank of Chunin. I didn't know. Of course, it's just a recommendation, but I feel like his intellect and skills are worthy for at least consideration. I know he lost in the Chunin exams, but he did forfeit, something he chose over ending Tamari's life. I believe this is also something we should look for in a good leader. Asuma nodded as Naruto gave a smile as he opened up the folder. Long story short, I believe your team is qualified for this mission as Ino and Choji can certainly put up a fight if nothing else. Now regarding all the information on the mission. Naruto picked up a piece of paper and handed it to Asuma. This contains all the information on the current political structure of the Land of Waves, at least this was the last report ever given to your father. I see. It should hopefully be mostly updated, though it may not be 100% accurate. I hope it will suffice. Asuma nodded as he continued to read over the report. While he did so, Naruto saw something out of the corner of his eye, and when he turned he saw a bird. The bird was flying right outside of his window and seemed to be staring at him. Could a bird stare at you? Naruto thought this over, but as soon as the bird saw him, it seemed to be flabbergasted, if a bird could be flabbergasted, that is, as it started to fly up and down, side to side looking him over, until an Anbu agent suddenly appeared and caught it. Naruto was surprised as he didn't see any danger in the bird, but what surprised him even more was that the agent just released it soon afterward as it just flew away, as if nothing had happened before he vanished himself. That might have been the strangest thing Naruto had ever seen. As Naruto kept staring out the window, he heard Asuma place the paper back on the desk, which recaptured his attention. I've read it over, and while the political landscape has seemed to change since I was there, the geography seems to be the same. But good, so you should have no problems getting there. None. Alright, awesome. Naruto gave a thumbs up to Asuma, who seemed surprised by the gesture, but he couldn't help but smile at Naruto, who immediately realized his semi-facade had vanished as he coughed into his hand and continued. Hey Anway, I'll send out the message to Tazuna so he should be prepared by the time you arrive. Any questions? None, sir. Alright Asuma, I hereby assign you and Team 10 to this B rank mission. Asuma saluted as he turned and left as Naruto kept his smile the entire time, though as soon as Asuma left he slumped down in his chair and sighed, man, I'm glad I've been reading over all the reports in this desk, otherwise I would be so lost right now. Not too long after the bird incident, Asuma walked out of the tower holding a mission scroll as Shikamaru opened his eye and looked at him. What type of mission is it? Well, it's our first B rank mission. B rank. Shikamaru was a bit surprised since that was usually reserved for chunin, though Asuma just nodded. Yeah, it's an escort mission with a medium chance of engaging in battle. I see. Where are we going? To the land of waves. We are to escort a builder and his crew back to our village so he can begin helping in the reconstruction effort. Apparently, quite a few mercenaries have it out for the head builder, so we need to stay sharp. Any questions? None of the three said anything as they all stood up and side by side each other, their serious eyes starting to take over. Alright, head home and prepare for the trip and meet me at the gates in 1 hour. Team 10, head out. Team Guy. 1000, 1001, 1002. As the wind silently blew throughout the training field, the only sound that could be heard came from the genin Rock Lee, who was currently doing his early morning routine that started around 4 in the morning and lasted all the way until lunchtime. As Lee kept his rhythmic pattern, he barely noticed the footsteps approaching him until the owner of said footsteps spoke. Early as usual, I see. After a few more push-ups, Lee stopped and stood up as he looked at the figure who had approached. Tenton. Good morning. Tenton just nodded towards him as she leaned against one of the training posts as she saw Lee's uniform covered in dirt. Training today like usual. Of course. I'll never become stronger if I just rest at home all day. But I am surprised, you're usually not here until lunchtime. Tenton sighed as she shrugged. I was polishing my weapons when Guy-sensei suddenly knocked on my door and told me to report to the training ground and he would meet us when Niji was informed. Lee nodded as he began to think. I wonder what Guy-sensei has prepared. Maybe it's a new training exercise that you can only do in the morning. No, it's not that. He told me it was because an urgent mission came up and it needed to be taken care of right away. A mission? Did he say what kind? Tenton shook her head as she closed her eyes. No, he just said the new Hokage had an urgent mission for us to do. New Hokage? Did you not know? I heard that the new Hokage was announced and approved yesterday. I don't know who it is, but I'm assuming it's either one of the Jonin or the legendary Sannin. Indeed, we have many qualified Jonin in this village, such as Guy-sensei himself. However, Guy-sensei wouldn't lie to us about a mission if he was the one chosen, so my only guess is that it's someone such as Kakashi-sensei. Who knows? Whoever it is, I just hope that this important mission is actually a mission and not something such as finding his daughter's lost cat. If Guy-sensei said it's an important mission, then I have every right to believe it's an incredible mission, such as tracking down and killing Orochimaru. I'm pretty sure an entire elite force would be constructed for something like that, not just one team of 3, 4 including sensei. And that is true. As Lee and Tenton continued to talk, they noticed 2 figures approaching them as Lee stood at attention, while Tenton kept her laid-back style on the post. Niji. Guy-sensei, good morning. Lee, Tenton. Niji gave his usual greeting as he started to walk towards them when. Lee. That was a pathetic good morning. You have to put all your emotion into it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Lee immediately straightened up as he quickly nodded. Of course, Guy-sensei. I'll be sure to put all my emotion into everything. That's the spirit. Now give me a good morning that's worth everything, that makes your bones rattle, that makes your blood pumping. Give me that good morning. Yes, Guy-sensei. Good morning. That's the spirit, Lee. Show me that emotion. Niji and Tenton just sighed at Lee's and Guy's usual banter as Niji coughed into his hand. Sensei, you said you had a mission for us. Ah, that's right. Alright everyone, line up. Niji and Tenton stood beside Lee, who still had tears of joy running down his face from having such an emotional conversation with Guy. Now then, I don't know what exactly the mission we'll be doing is, but I do know that we won't be the only team involved in this one. Huh? We won't be. That's right. This will be a 2-team job. We will be with teammate on this mission, so working together is key. Teammate Tenton looked at Niji, who just gave a scoff as he lowly spoke. Well, as long as she doesn't get in the way we should be fine. Tenton and Lee didn't say anything as they knew precisely who Niji was talking about. Nobody will be getting in the way, Niji, that's not what teamwork is all about, remember that. Guy, on the other hand, wasn't afraid to speak up as Niji just narrowed his eyes and looked downwards anyway. We are to report to the Hokage's office right away. Will this mean we will get to meet the new Hokage guy sensei? Sorry Lee, but I'm afraid that anybody lower than Jonin isn't allowed to meet him until the public ceremony. However, don't let that discourage you, use this mystery as a way to better yourself by making you want to train harder so you can someday uncover this mystery. Ah yes. I will guy sensei. Niji and Tenten again just sighed, not knowing how something as stupid as that was able to motivate Lee. Team Kurenai. As the sun shone brightly on the Hyuga manor, the servants went about their everyday routine, as if nothing had changed before the chunin exams, as instructed to by the head of the household. However, not everything was quiet. In the dojo of the manor, two sets of feet could be heard slowly walking around each other, judging each other's movements and seeing how the other one would react. Until finally they quickly moved in on each for just a few seconds before jumping backward once again. On one end of the room breathing heavily was the next in line to take over the Hyuga manor, Hinata Hyuga. On the other end of the room were her cousin and a member of the branch family Niji Hyuga. The two kept their stares on each as they both had their Byakugan activated, having been training against each other since the sun had risen. However, as the fights had gone on, Hinata looked more and more visibly tired, while Niji seemed perfectly fine. You are a member of the main line, surely something like this isn't enough to wear you down. Hinata didn't say anything as she stayed in her stance. The fight was being watched by both of their fathers, one sitting on each side of the room as they observed the spar between the two of them. The two continued to circle each other until a servant rushed into the room and bent down to whisper into Hinata's father's ear, who immediately nodded as he stood up and signaled for the two of them to end their current spar. Both immediately did so, as Hinata fell down to one knee as Niji glared at her, incredibly unimpressed with her so far as to him, she had improved none since the first rounds of the chunin exams. As they continued to stare at each other, a knock was heard on the door as Guy walked in. Niji, glad to see you've taken Lee's approach and are training this early in the morning. Guy-sensei, is there something you need? Yes, there is. The Hokage has assigned us a mission, and as such we are to act on it immediately. Hinata ears perked up at the mention of the Hokage, she knew that her father and some other clansmen were told who the new Hokage was yesterday, yet despite being a part of the main family, it seemed no one told her specifically. I see, have you already told Lee and Tenten? Well, I already went ahead and told Tenten, so she should be on her way to the training field as we speak. Lee, on the other hand, should already be there, continuing his regular morning exercise program. I see, then I suppose I'll head on as well. Well, you can just head on with me, after all, I have nowhere else to go now. Niji just nodded as he looked down at Hinata one last time and spoke. Take the time to actually improve yourself while I'm gone. Hinata didn't say anything as Niji left with Guy, leaving her along with her father and uncle, who both didn't say anything as they also left the room, leaving her by herself on her knee. She stayed there to collect her breath, and after a moment she just sighed as she pushed herself up and walked towards the door, only to stop when another knock came at it. She was initially confused, but soon the door opened as Hinata gave a confused but happy look. Hey Kurenai-sensei. Hinata, I hope your morning has been pleasant so far. Kurenai walked into the dojo as she gave a loving smile to Hinata, who gave a small smile of her own. I suppose so. Why are you here, Kurenai-sensei? Well, we've been assigned a mission by the Hokage, one that apparently is quite urgent, so we are to report to him immediately for the details. The Hokage. Kurenai gave a nod as Hinata looked at the ground for a moment before raising her head. Sensei, do you know who the Hokage is? Did they not tell you? Hinata shook her head, surprising Kurenai some since she was a part of the main family of the Hyuga clan, though as she thought about it and who the Hokage was, she started to see why they maybe didn't tell her. I see, well I'm sure you're able to see who he is, along with everyone else during the public ceremony. Sensei, do you know who he is? Kurenai nodded though with a bit of reluctance. Yes I do. Then, can you tell me who it is? Well, no I can't, I'm not allowed to tell anyone under the rank of Jonin who the Hokage is unless he specifically tells me to. Hinata just mouthed a no as she looked back towards the ground, making Kurenai give a guilty look. But how about this? I'll ask him if you can meet him, sound good? Oh really? Yep. Hinata gave a smile and a nod to Kurenai, she didn't know why exactly, but it felt like something was telling her she had to know who the Hokage was, but she couldn't place her finger on why exactly. Now, ready to head out? Why yes. Hinata gave another smile as she walked with Kurenai out of the dojo, talking about a range of stuff from what type of mission she thought it might be to when the public ceremony would be. However, that conversation stopped when they reached the gates of her house. Hinata. Glad to see you're up early this morning. Kiba. Shino. Kiba Inuzuka and Shino Aburam, two of her teammates, were outside of her household gates. When did you guys? Oh, we came with Kurenai-sensei. Figured it would be better if we just tagged along with her to grab you. Kiba gave a big smile, and soon a figure popped its head out from his jacket. Woof woof. See? Even Akamaru thought it was a good idea. Kiba patted Akamaru's head as Hinata kept staring before giving a small laugh. "Ich, how are you today, Shino?" "Fine, thanks, a man." A few words like always, Hinata just smiled and nodded as Kurenai walked in front of them. "Alright you guys, let's head on over to the Hokage Tower." As the four of them walked together, the mood drastically morphing into one of goodwill and cheer, they talked about a variety of things from the new Hokage to the weather, to even what each of them had for dinner the night before. However, as they all turned the corner, they all saw Team Guy waiting over by a bench, with Lee doing push-ups and Tenten and Niji sitting on the bench. When Lee saw them, he immediately stopped his push-ups as she straightened himself out. "Kurenai-sensei. It is an honor to embark on today's mission with you and your team." "Embark with us?" Hinata gave a questioning look to Kurenai. "Huh? Oh, did I not tell you? Today's mission is a co-op mission with Guy's team." "Co-op mission?" Hinata looked over at Team Guy when her eyes locked with Niji's, making her look downwards as he just gave a scoff towards her, which didn't go unnoticed by Kiba. "Hey, you son of a bitch. Don't scoff at her like that, and she is your teammate after all." Niji opened his eyes and locked them with Kiba as he barely moved. "She's my teammate is name only, as her skills on the battlefield would only serve to give me a handicap, though perhaps I can say that about your entire team." "What did you say? You wanna go?" "HMPH, a fight between us would only last mere seconds before you would be begging for mercy." "Oh yeah, alright, get ready th. That's enough, Kiba." Kurenai yelled out, interrupting the two of them as Kiba looked up at her. "But sensei." "No buts. You two may not like each other, but for this upcoming mission, you two are teammates, understand?" "Yeah. Niji, you may not be under me, but goes for you as well, understand?" Niji didn't say anything as he just closed his eyes and laid his head backward as Tenten and Lee awkwardly looked in between the two of them. "Now I'm going to go talk to Hokage-sama and acquire the mission details. I ask that all of you don't cause anything while I'm gone." Her team all just nodded at her, while Team Guy just kept staring at Niji as she walked past all of the men into the tower. Naruto sat at his desk looking through the many papers that contained details concerning the route between the village and Suna, along with whatever threats may rear their ugly heads along the way over there. As he continued to read over all of them, he heard a knock on his door before it opened as Might Guy walked in. "Hokage-sama. Might Guy here reporting for duty." "Guy, I'm glad to see you here. I'm guessing the others are outside waiting." "Yes, sir. They are also all ready to go as well." "Good, glad to hear. Now, do you know anything about the upcoming mission?" "No, nothing, all I know is that it's a co-op mission with Kurenai and her team." "Yeah, that's right, you will be joining Team 8 on this mission. The mission is not only to escort Kankuro and Tamari back to their village, but also all of their prisoners we have taken over the years. After that is accomplished, you are to then escort our prisoners back from their village and back here safely." "It sounds like a prisoner swap." "That is exactly what it is, it was one of the points agreed upon during the surrender agreement talks." Guy nodded as Naruto handed him the piece of paper he was looking over from before. "This is the route from Konoha to Suna and should contain all the information you need from geography all the way to potential threats." "I see, if you don't mind me asking, will any medical ninja be accompanying us? I'm sure the prisoners won't be in the best of health." "I thought of that, however medical ninja aren't the best fighters in the world and with the potential of threats, I don't want you having to strain yourself protecting them along with the prisoners. Plus many of the medical ninjas are still treating those wounded during Orochimaru's attack, so I don't want to strain their resources even more." Of course, that makes perfect sense, sir." Guy held out his own thumbs up, causing Naruto to laugh as he returned the gesture, making the two of them lose their formal facade for just a moment, though it quickly returned when a knock was heard on the door before it opened. "Hokage-sama, you wish to see me?" Kurenai, I was just explaining to Guy here the details of the mission. I'm sure just like him you have your team prepared." "Yes sir, they are currently waiting outside as we speak." Naruto nodded as Guy handed her the piece of paper he was reading over as Naruto explained to her what the paper was. "I see, so our mission is in the village of Sugakure." "Yes, the mission is." Naruto explained the mission details to her, not changing anything from what he told Guy as she nodded and kept reading over the paper. "Any questions?" "No sir, well none regarding the mission." You have something unrelated to ask?" "Well yes, but I don't wish to interrupt the mission briefing." "Well other than the rank, everything has been said. Though I should go ahead and do that. I am assigning this mission as a B rank mission as it has the potential of enemy ninja threats. If either of you objects, please speak it." "No sir, me and my team will carry it out wholeheartedly. Team Might Guy always loves a challenge and we are prepared to carry out this mission in style." Naruto gave a smile as he nodded as he signed the mission scroll and handed it to Guy. "Now then Guy, unless you have any questions you can return to your team while I see what Kurenai needs." Guy nodded as he patted Kurenai on the back and left the room, leaving Naruto and Kurenai. So what's up? Well, as you know, other than the Jonin and clan's heads, nobody knows you are Hokage. Yeah, that's what I know anyway. Well, the main family of each clan was told as well in such an event, as the clan's head suddenly dying, the only main family member to my knowledge that wasn't informed was Hinata. I see Naruto straightened himself up as he looked Kurenai in the eye as he had a feeling where this was going. So I'm guessing. I wish to not only inform Hinata of your appointment, but have her meet with you before embarking on the mission, sir. Naruto nodded as he let out a sigh as he thought for a moment, sir, I'm not sure if you're aware, but Hinata has feelings for me, that's what you want to say, correct? Yes. Yeah, I know sensei broke the news to me right after the first round of the chunin exams, but he told me to continue to act oblivious because until my training was done, love should be the last thing I worry about. Naruto sighed as the memory of that conversation coming back into his mind, though he had also been told that because of his feelings for a certain pink-haired girl that he had to squash. I see. Do you return her feelings if you don't mind me asking? Naruto shrugged as he pushed himself up from his desk and walked over to the window as he looked down, seeing the two teams on opposite sides of the streets as Guy was walking out of the building. Who knows? I had some feelings for someone, but at the same time it was more of a crush than anything. I've felt attracted to a lot of the girls around me, so who knows? I understand, sir, I have to remind myself that you are rather young. Well, it was rude of me to ask anyway about your private life. Huh? Oh no, I don't mind. But anyway, with that in mind, would it be alright to go ahead and tell her? Naruto thought for a moment as he went back to looking outside as he noticed that everyone was looking up at him, though it's not like they could see who he actually was thanks to the Jinjutsu, as his eyes locked with Hinata's, not like she would know they were locked, as he sighed. For the time being, no, mostly because you are about to embark on quite a dangerous mission, and I don't want her mind sidetracked on other things. Perhaps if the mission is done before the ceremony, I'll tell her, but not until then. I understand. Yes, of course, we have a mission coming up. I apologize for not thinking about how she might be. Haha, as I said, it's fine. Now then, any more questions? No thank you, sir. I promise the mission will be a success. Haha, glad to hear. Kurenai saluted as she left towards the door as Naruto gave one last sigh as he walked back to his desk and took his hat off, his stomach growling loudly. Oh, Jiraiya-sama, it's nice to see you again. Naruto looked up as he saw Jiraiya passing Kurenai as walked in, as Naruto gave a big smile towards him. Sensei. How are you? Jiraiya didn't say anything as he closed the door behind him as he gave a sad but serious look to Naruto, making him confused. Sensei. Naruto, it's time for you to learn the truth. Truth? I heard that at the ceremony. What truth? The truth about the day you were born and the Nine-Tails Fox attack. What if Naruto becomes Hokage after chunin exams? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.